Hello, welcome and good evening ladies and gentlemen to another round of the NXTCC Season 2 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing, and today marks round 7 and 8 of this season of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, which continues to ask the question across our Pro and Pro-Am driver classes, who is the best in the front engine front wheel drive touring car machinery. With only 2 rounds to go, we are here today in Germany at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben for what is going to be a challenging round of racing, given this circuit is no stranger to danger when it comes to potential battling into corners, none more than the infamous turn 1, which whilst not as sharp as it used to be back in the 90s, is still a corner that's very tricky, and indeed with all the corners around here fast flying and in unique sequences, is going to be a circuit like no other that demands precision out of our drivers, and if they can get it right, then they may just have the opportunity to go battling with a limited number of straights and quite a few heavy braking zones also going into the mix. But as our drivers get ready to go racing, in the background you'll see that they're currently going through their final practice warm-up session. Let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinator Time, UTC. In just under 90 minutes time, we'll be heading into our qualifying session. It'll be 20 minutes of action there, where all of our drivers head to the circuit together in anger, looking to set their best possible lap time before then they make their way back into the pits and out onto the grid for our first race of the day. It'll be the first of 3 races that are 12 laps in length, and that'll be sprint race number 1 at approximately 10 to 9 this evening. We'll see our drivers line up on the grid as they qualified and going all in, no holds barred action from start to finish. After that, we'll take a brief breather before returning for our second sprint race of the day, another 12 lapper at what will be approximately 25 past 9, and there the complexion will be different with the rearrangement of the grid from the results of race number 1, and we'll see our drivers try to contest positions once again before we take a brief break after race number 2 and return for sprint race number 3 with the partial reverse grid, and that'll kick off at approximately 5 past 10 this evening. We'll see our drivers over the final 12 laps of today contest for position the final time, and indeed look to set themselves up the best possible points haul going into the season finale in Brazil in a week's time. But not thinking ahead to in a week's time, but thinking to the here and now, this broadcast is being brought to you live via 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can go to youtube.com and search for Next Gen Racing. Alternatively, you can always, if you're on Facebook, go to facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing and tune in there. Or last but not least, if you're more of a Twitch inclined user, you can go to twitch.tv/TX141 and tune in on Twitch. Now, who is TX141? I hear you ask. Well, that is your host and commentator. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all of your racing action tonight and indeed for the remainder of the season. And what a season it has been over the course of the rounds so far. And well, speaking of the rounds so far, let's take a look at the season calendar and what lies in wait and what has passed us by. So, after last time out at Watkins Glen International, or the Cup course layout of the American circuit on the 10th of January, where it's all about the slipstream, and it was effectively next-gen racing touring cars do NASCAR and bringing it in a hybrid mesh, and then we saw plenty of battling in the draft, but also into the corners. We are now in Germany at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben for today on the 17th of January. In a week's time, we'll be heading to Interlagos for the circuit. There's no stranger to championship drama right at the very end of the season. You only need to look back to recent years in Formula 1, for example. The infamous Is That Glock moment stands ahead of time, and indeed on the 24th of January we'll bring it all to a close. But prior to all this, of course, going back for our calendar, we started the story back on the 29th of November in 2022. Goodness me, it feels as though the end of November last year has absolutely flown by, and it's a long way in the past. But in round number 1, we of course kicked off at Donington Park's Grand Prix circuit, and there at the British circuit we saw sparks fly and plenty of door-to-door racing action at a circuit that is a commonality with regards to British Touring Car Championship, and again featuring our calendar for this season. We then made our way to Spain for the circuit to Barcelona Catalunya in this more international calendar, and on the 6th of December in round number 2 at the national layout of the circuit, it was bold, it was brash, and indeed a number of drivers ended up in quite a few too many crashes, but at the same time those who were able to steer clear of the danger and the disaster were able to bring home some massive points. And in the Pro-Am class, of course, it was the arrival and dominance of Reese Watt in round number 2 that caught all eyes and sent the spotlight onto him. Then in round number 3 we made our way over to Belgium for Circuit Zolder, and on the 13th of December we saw there the Pro-Ams once again fly high. This time it was Daniel Holmer, but in return in the Pro class we also saw plenty of battling up the front, and Mikey Doble, our current championship leader in the Pro class, really having to dig in to get the results out of the car. Then in round number 4 it was the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and there at the Grand Prix circuit on the 20th of December we saw the arrival of Gianni Peroni in the Hyundai Elantra for Verano Motorsport, who really put together an absolutely brilliant string of performances, particularly in qualifying. But again, we also got to see the Honda Civics, despite the success balance and also the straight line speed deficit, still trying to reign supreme. But the biggest name, of course, on the title title was one Callum Regarton. Only arrived at the one round, but he took the standings by surprise and indeed led with a triple set of wins. And well, then we went into the break week. Went into Christmas, of course, took a week's break and then returned on the 3rd of January 2023 at the Dreaming Motegi circuit, making our way over to Japan. And in the Japanese circuit, that's less common on international calendars and more reserved for Japanese domestic calendars, we saw our drivers there really have to contest for a circuit which was a stranger to many, but at the same time, our drivers were able to find a way to success. Indeed, plenty of great battles into the hairpins of Motegi. And then last time out, of course, we're in the United States of America at Watkins Glen. But with our calendar covered, let's take a look at the standings going into this penultimate round. And we can see here, after 6 rounds of racing in the overall championship, the overall drivers' championship, that is, with all the points lined up together between our pro and pro-am drivers based on where they finished in the overall grid over the rounds, Mikey Doble leads the way though on 399 points by an advantage currently in excess of 140 points, to be precise, 146 points over Adam Delmont. Adam Delmont really continues to shine as the driver in P2, but he's not been able to take the candle to Mikey Doble, who really has been the best of the pack all the way through the season. And whilst at certain points he's not been able to bring home every single win, he's been the driver who's been up there week in, week out delivering. And well, he's going to be very hard pressed right now not to find a way to win the championship tonight, given that points advantage and with a limited number of points available for taking all the wins. And of course the bonus points today, Mikey Doble only needs to score approximately 20 points in the overall classification in order to become our overall champion for Season 2. Well, there have been no drop scores in effect. We're not going to see these points shuffled up going into the season finale. Then, behind Adam Delmont in P2, given the hot pursuit, we have Will Redford there, chasing after Delmont, and really now the contest is for P2 overall there, with the two protagonists separated by 14 points, and then we do have a sizable gap there of what is 69 points to Jamie Dory. And Jamie Dory in P4 right now, holding on to P4, albeit with Gavin Gardner and Daniel Holmer not too far behind, and Andrew Pike as well in the mix. Those 4 drivers could all be contesting that P4 position by the end, but it may be now that they have to focus on P4 rather than trying to nip at the heels of Will Redford in P3. We then have Chris Daines in P8 on 129 points, ahead of Martin Shirley in P9 on 118, and Sam Smith completes the top 10 on 96. Best of the rest in P11, it's Wayne Douglas there on 96 points, only outside the top 10 based on result countback, with a 5-point advantage over your Pro-Am Championship leader, and your leading pro in the overall classification, and that is Matthew Addy. And right now he'll be thinking most likely not just about his Pro-Am Championship aspirations, but also can he break into the overall top 10 come the end of tonight. Nick Clibben's there in P13, only 3 points clear of Callum Regarton, and it's Kieran Sharp who completes the run to P15 on 72 points, with an advantage there of only what is 8 points over Michael Lease. And in fact, if we do our maths again correctly there, that's 9 points, not 8 points. And then Alan McCain in at P17 now on 59 points, 3 clear of Reece Watt, with Adam McNally and Joseph Doble completing the run of the top 20. Outside the top 20, P21 is Lee Horn, 3 points clear of John Higgins Jr., with Ian Manners, Paul Scott and Isaac Doble in the run to 25. And then we can see Davide Favo, Bernardo Colbe, Sebastian Bruberg, Luke Jones and Bram G. Clays completing the run to the top 30. John Higgins Sr. there in P31. We haven't seen him take to the circuit recently. And indeed, it does look as though we're not going to be seeing too much more from our drivers at what is going to be the Scottish outfit for the remainder of the season. But it's great to see them racing all the same. And then we can see Jonathan Collins there in P32, only on 3 points, much like John Higgins Sr., but looking to try and find a way past the HSR racing driver. Mark Sykes in P33 on 2 points, with Jason Morris there just behind the result countback, and then Matt Emmons, the last of our drivers to have an overall point in the overall standings there in P35. Yet to score a point in the overall championship, we have Daniel Weston, Elwyn Sykes, Liam Silkstone, Philip Bruberg, Sean Scooter, and then our last 2 drivers here are Stefan Vessels and Trev Anderson. Now coming on to the individual drivers classes championships, we come on to the pros firstly, and we can see Mikey Doble here with all the points readjusted for individual class classification. He leads by an advantage in excess, almost 150 points. To be precise, 147 points there, and the gambit on him tonight is he only needs to score 15 points to be able to put this championship out of arm's reach for Adam Delmont. For Mikey Doble, it should be a simple run today, but of course anything can happen in the NXTCC, and will it be as simple as the mathematics suggests? Adam Delmont, meanwhile, only 10 points clear of Will Redford. I think Delmont's attention is now going to turn more towards rear guard action rather than forward thinking, and trying to keep Will Redford at bay, given the fact that he's really nipping at the heels of Adam Delmont, despite Delmont's really strong set of runs over the last couple of rounds. And then you also do have Daniel Holmer there, a little bit of an unknown Daniel Holmer, of course, on 224 points, and you would argue that he'll be looking to try and come back strong and really try to pip Redford to the post there, albeit of an outside chance. And again, if Daniel Holmer lines up his cards right, he could be finishing P2 come the end of the season. Jamie Dory there in a bit of no man's land, a good number of points, always 33 offered Daniel Holmer, but in return only only 6 points clear of Gavin Gardner. And in the respect of these two drivers here, Dory and Gardner, both drivers, they're starting to make the way clear of Andrew Pike. What it means for Dory and Gardner is they find themselves trying to chase after the top four, but at the same time, they need to be wary of the charge of Andrew Pike on 161 points. Chris Danes there on 160 points, unfortunately, will not be returning to the tarmac for the remainder of this season due to incidents picked up at Motegi. And then we see Sam Smith and Martin Shirley completing at the top 10 with best of the rest there. Nick Clemens on 114 points, now staying 25 points off of Martin Shirley. And I think Clemens will be doing everything he can to get back into the top 10, but it may be a little bit late in the game. Wayne Douglas there on 111 points. We're trying to keep Nick Clemens honest, of course, as Clemens tries to look higher. Douglas will try to make him look a little bit lower. And then Michael Lease in 13th on 109 points, also getting into the mix with Callum Reed-Garton, Kieran Sharp, Adam McNally, Gianni Perrone and John Higgins Jr. completing our Pro Championship standings. Then we come onto the Prime class, and we can see here in the Primes, Matthew Addy leads the way, albeit the complexion is a little bit different. Unlike the Pros, Matthew Addy is not able to seal the championship tonight, or he would have to go a long way in terms of picking up a triplet of wins, and he would need his rivals to have major retirements over all three races or disastrous results. But you can be certain of one thing, and that is Alan McCain, Reece Watt and Joseph Doble are unlikely to retire. They'll give it their all and look to make sure that Matthew Addy's not going to have it straightforward in terms of the performance. Now the gap there standing in almost of excess of 50 points, albeit it's 47 points to be precise. Now Addy has the contention of Alan McCain in P2, and with McCain there currently 11 points clear of Reece Watt, taking P2 in the championship standings for the first time this season. Alan McCain is certainly going to be fired up after a brilliant run of results at Watkins Glen, and will he be able to hold on to that P2 and really start to close the delta to the championship leader? Or will Reece Watt and Joseph Doble, two very strong drivers who have shown great promise throughout the entirety of the season, and Reece Watt at one point tipped to be the favourite to win the Prime class, but of course we have seen the resurgence of Matthew Addy and also the rise of Alan McCain and Joseph Doble get into the mix, but Reece Watt they'll be looking to try and keep Doble at bay with 14 points between the two of them, whilst at the same time making sure McCain and Addy do not break away. Ian Manners there in P5 on 184 points, now really leading the charge to be P5 driver of the championship with a point over Lee Horn, but the two of them will be going toe-to-toe tonight. And then we have Isaac Doble, Mark Sykes, Luke Jones and Paul Scott, only separated by a margin now of 13 points in the run from P7 to P10, and there's plenty to play for the four drivers if they want to fish inside that top 10 as best as possible. But let's not count out Philip Bruberg there on 102 points, only 16 off of the top 10, and also showing a great run of form over the last couple of rounds, and he'll be looking to get into the fray for a top 10 finish, alongside Jonathan Collins there on 89 points, who's 4 clear of Jason Morris, and then we have Bernardo Colbain 61 points, 6 clear of Nigel Stock in P15. Davide Favo, just outside the top 10, on the top 15, we should say, on 52 points. 2 clear of Trevor Anderson with Matt Emmons, John Higgins Sr. and Elwin Sykes completing the top 20. And then as we come to outside the top 20 in the Prime class, we can see Sebastian Bruberg ahead of Daniel Weston, Liam Silkstone, Stefan Vessels, Sean Scooter and Bram G. Clays complete your Prime Championship standings. But now we come on to the Teams Championship, and after 6 rounds we can announce, ladies and gentlemen, with all the maths being done, that NDA Honda Racing there with a tally of 671 points, the combination of Jamie Dory, Mikey Doble, Joseph Doble and Will Redford have been crowned your Teams Champions with 2 rounds to spare. Indeed, their results last time out really have put them at a mathematical advantage, whereby they cannot be caught even if all 4 drivers will not to attend the next 2 rounds. And whilst that means our championship has ended early, there's still plenty to play for further on down, but we must congratulate NDA Honda Racing for what has been an absolutely dominant run over the season since the very season opener. In P2, it's all to play for then on 345 points, with Excite Racing ahead of Verano Motorsport by an advantage of only 12 points, and these two teams really have been the best of the rest, hunting down at P2 position, and with Excite currently on a good run of form, will can Verano Motorsport find a way to retaliate. Then P4, the Sim Racing Collective, the TSRC team, consisting of Andrew Pike and Kieran Sharp, continue to hold on to P4 there, ahead of iRace Esports, but on 221 points to 208, a 13-point advantage does look quite vulnerable, and iRace Esports, of course, now really on a great run of form, and we saw that from their drives at Watkins Glen, where they were able to put it all together despite their bad luck in the first half of the season. Outside the top 5 in P6, NXTGEN Racing Yellow, only 2 points off of iRace Esports, and also in this fight for P4, and then we have a sizable gap there of what is 70 points to Bright Esports, the Brubo Brothers and Homer, ahead of what is their Simtech Racing's Shirley and Clays by an advantage of 16 points. Callum Reed-Garton and Bernardo Colbain, the Garton with Colbain Racing team, make up P9 on 77 points, and then in P10, JW Motorsport on 59 points, ahead of the drivers outside the top 10, and best of the rest there is HSR on 48 points, with 52 Zillow Crest Racing a bit further behind on 26 points in P12, and it's NXTGEN Racing Blue and CSA Racing who complete your team's championship standings going into this round. And then lastly, of course, we come to the Manufacturer Championship. We use this as our reference point for the success ballast applied to each of the 4 cars available to our drivers, and we can see that on 1,209 points, well, the Honda Civic Type 1, indeed Honda have taken the Manufacturer Manufacturers Championship for this season as of the end of round number 6, when unassailable advantage then it really has go to show. Given the current balance of points in iRacing, that Honda has been flying high, and the drivers who've been driving it really have delivered the results with the car. Driver and car have harmonised together, and it's been absolutely unstoppable despite the 75 kilograms of success ballast that's supplied ever since round number 2. In P2 there, we have the Hyundai Elantra, and then their sister outfit, the Hyundai Veloster there. The gap between the two teams standing just in excess of 100 points, and so the Elantras will be taking 50 kilograms of success ballast tonight. Meanwhile, the Velosters will be taking 25 kilograms of success ballast, and there in P4, a long way off the pace, we can see the Audi RS3 on 169 points, but still the RS3 was proven to be a very strong car at Watkins Glen International, but we suspect the tables may turn today given the focus on cornering and the lack of top-end straight line speed that's going to be available to our Audi drivers here today in Germany. But speaking of where we are today, well, we take a look at our circuit. It's the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben Grand Prix circuit, located in the village of Oschersleben in the region of Böde in Germany. This circuit, consisting of a grand total of 14 corners, as you can see from the circuit map provided us by simracingwiki.com, is a circuit which is much loved for its ability to produce close and intense racing. Now, the 14 corners are a notable set of corner sequences where we have the run into the hotel helping at turns 1 and 2, whereby drivers will be trail braking the way into left-hander before getting harder onto the brakes for turn number 2, the long right-hander, and as they hit the apex, they'll power out towards Hasseröder at turn number 3. Again, an elongated hairpin before they make their way through the triple left-hander of turns 4, 5 and 6, before planting the car back onto the brakes for turn number 7, and a bit of symmetry there with regards to turns 6 and 7 and turns 1 and 2, but as they make them out of turn 7, they'll start to see chicanes with the run through turns 8 and 9 up into 10 at McDonald's, and then they'll make their way down the back straight into the turn 11, 12 chicane sequence, albeit separated at medium speed. That's the shell curve into the Ammon curve, and then our drivers will make their way into the Bauer curve, the penultimate corner, before coming down to the brakes of the Zeppelin curve and heading back onto the start-finish straight to do it all again. The start-finish straight is the longest straight here, albeit it's quite a short one by comparison with other circuits on the calendar, and that means overtaking opportunities will be limited here unless you're able to nail every corner, lap in, lap out, and also you can put a driver in front of you under major pressure. And what does that mean in turn? It means that qualifying is going to be critical to success from the outset here, and we can expect qualifying will play the most important part of today in how our drivers get themselves set up for going into the free races. Now, as we get ready to go racing, let's just give you a quick recap of the rules. In terms of setup, this is a fixed setup series. These setups have been provided by NXTGEN Racing to our drivers prior to each round. In terms of driver classes, the classes were finalised back as of round number 3. We're not expecting any more driver class changes, even by emergency. In the sprint races, of course, all 3 of our races are sprint races. There are no pit stops expected. Each race is 12 laps in length. The race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. The race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race number 1. So our winner of race number 1, we start in on pole for race 2 and we work our way down the order. And the race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on the results of race 2, with the reversal position being drawn live on air from between 6th and 12th. When we come over to the commentary booth, I'll be doing the lottery bowl draw, and we should remind you that P10 is excluded for today because P10 was the number that was drawn from the lottery basket as of Watkins Glen. Now, each driver shall have 2 fast pairs available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes if we should see a safety car or 2. On top of that as well, with regards to safety cars, race stewarding will be in effect, whereby an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and also deployment of the safety car. With regards to track limit infringements, penalties shall be distributed as follows. The first through to 3rd warnings for a driver, they get no penalty. On the 4th warning, it's a 5-second post-race time penalty. The 5th warning, that goes up to 10 seconds. And on the 6th warning, it's a drive-through penalty. And if drivers should get a drive-through penalty, they must serve them within 3 laps of being allotted, and racing incidents shall be reviewed at post-round. But that's enough rules, regulations, and everything in between. I know what you're all here for. You're here for the race, and so am I. Let's head back to those live pictures right now. And indeed, parked up in the pits at the moment, there is your Pro and Oval Championship leader, and the man who seems to be on course for destiny today. It's NDA Honda Racing's Mikey Doble in the 88 car, currently P4 in this final practice session. And I think he feels as though here he doesn't need to be the number 1 driver today to be number 1 in the standings when it's all said and done. But then again, he may just want to prove a point by bringing home another set of wins tonight. But speaking of Doble brothers here, we look to Jose Doble from NDA Honda Racing, and of course his run of form has really grown since the run into the second half of the season. And right now the NDA Honda Racing driver, the second fastest of everybody in this practice session, as he makes his way on throughout the right-hander into left-hander, coming for 11 into 12, and as he makes his way on out there in the number 11 car right now, Jose Doble definitely looking to be one of the big names up there in terms of performance. And can he find his way ready to get himself into a late charge into the position of hunting down that Pro Championship crown? Well, the statistics are looking good for him, given his run of form recently. Not necessarily with wins, but a good number of podium finishes and top 5 5 finishes. If he can get himself on the podium 3 times today, then he'll definitely be in there with a good chance going into the finale at Interlagos. But as we look from Doble to Wayne Douglas behind, we can see that running around in the Hyundai Veloster N, and the Next Gen Racing yellow driver right now, P2 of everybody. And if we know one thing about Wayne Douglas is when he's all fired up, he doesn't give up, and we've seen that time and time again from him going over the course of this season, where of course last time out of what was the Watkins Glen International Circuit, not quite the form that he perhaps had in round number 5 at Twin Rim Motegi, where he absolutely went for it left, right and centre in Japan, and we look forward to seeing how he can mix things up at the front of the field in the Pro class and overall. And as our drivers get ready to go into qualifying here with just less than 10 seconds on the clock right now, it does look as though everybody's set and ready to go. And who is going to be our pole sitter for race number 1 in both the Pro and also the Pro-Am class? Well, it's going to be a challenge here, and can drivers find enough space on circuit to be able to put in a lap where they're not impeded with regards to that potential slipstream? Now, of course, the big question will be as we transition over into qualifying, what can we expect in the qualifying session when it comes down to things such as the tow? Well, we're not expecting our drivers to perhaps use as much slipstream as they did at Watkins Glen, or even compared to, say, Twin Rim Motegi or circuits in the first half of the season. And that's because this circuit is highly technical, and we'll see our drivers balance over the nose of the car very aggressively in terms of turning to pick up that corner apex and then try to get back on the powerful corner exit as everyone piles out of the pit lane here as quickly as possible, with a grand total of approximately 25 drivers in attendance. And as we see Gavin Garnett in the Verano Motorsport number 11 Audi making his way out of the pit lane, I think our drivers will be looking to try and find a bit of space on the circuit to get their best possible laps in and try to pick up a bit of a distant tow in the run across the start finish line, or alternatively in the run down the back straight. But beyond that, you'll not want the tow for the simple reason it could really end up removing that front end downforce, and therefore that ability to turn in nicely into these extended corners such as at turn number 3, and also the run through the triple left-hander turns at 4, 5 and 6, and that may compromise a very strong lap in return. But as our drivers all head on out here, of course, they will have a grand total of 20 minutes in this qualifying session. They have ample time to put a lap on the clock, as we do see here Bernardo Colbe making his way through turns 4 through to 6, and as he comes on through right now, finds himself behind there one of the bright esports machines, and that we couldn't quite see the door number of the car yet, but Colbe definitely right now feeling himself a little bit condensed in here and looking for a bit of space. As we wait for him to find a bit of space on the circuit, we do look to the chat, and we can see all 3 of them, of course. Do not be shy, feel free to say hi. Much like what K-Teams has done in the Facebook chat there. K-Teams says, good evening, Paul, hope you're well. Indeed, Katie, doing quite well, thank you. Albeit a little bit chilly today, it's turned a bit cold in the United Kingdom, where I'm currently based, but at the same time, a good bit of racing action in touring cars is definitely going to file up the cockles of my heart. How about yourself? I hope you're doing well, and saying there as well, good luck to the Excite Racing boys again tonight. Indeed, Excite Racing, who we can see here, Michael Lees making his way into turn number 13 right now, had an absolute thrilling set of runs over the course of the Watkins Glen races, and will they be able to find a little bit more today in their championship aspiration? Whereas all drivers come on around here, of course, no time being wasted by anybody, as there is a long concertina in the run down towards turn 1. It does look as though it's a bit of a traffic jam right now, as also in this mix is Matthew Addy as they come down into the opening left-hander, and we'd think they were going racing right now given how close they are, but Matthew Addy loses the rear of the car. He just catches it in time, and well, is he going to stop it from hitting the barrier? No, it is a slight graze, and well, he'll come back onto the circuit, and I suspect gradually limp his way to the pits. A bit of a difficult one there, and cold tyres really catching out, and cold brakes as well as he went into the braking zone between 1 and 2. It's so easy to make a mistake here until you've got those tyres and those brakes up to temperature, as we do see here Andrew Pike coming through for the TSRC team, making his way for 3 and up into 4, and will give himself a nice bit of space there, approximately 2.5 seconds to the next car in front of him, about 4 seconds to the car behind, as he makes his way through the triple left to turns 4, 5 and 6, and up towards 7 here. This may be the way to go, because he'll feel that distant tow gradually overlap, presuming he puts in a lap where he closes up to the driver in front, and as time goes on, it will work out nicely for him in terms of being able to close up their delta and then pick up the speed on the run down the back straight and on the run to the start finish line, or even set himself up well for the next lap, of course, in the run towards turn number 1. But as he comes down towards the braking zone for 11 here, Paul Pike right now just keeping it sweet, and of course trying to hunt another podium, given the fact that contested the top 5 in the pro class for a good number of rounds now, but really looking to pick up podiums where he can, as the number 99 driver heads into turn number 13, and we start to get our first laps on the board, and well, Joseph Doble sets the first major time there of 35.637, but Adam Delmont immediately responds for a 35.345, and Nick Clivens filters his way in between the pound of 35.416, but as we see in the rear of the picture, Andrew Pike coming across the line. What will he be able to achieve as he crosses that time in line? Well, we are waiting for an update, and it's a 34.951. Flash of lights there, and and I wonder if that's because he knows he's on camera. Alternatively, he's trying to say to the drivers in front, would you mind moving out of the way? As Michael Leeds gets it wrong, and Pike has to back off there. And well, so many drivers in those velocities in particular, they're apparently getting it wrong into turns 1 and 2, and I think that may just be where they're trying to take it aggressively. Now, what's the run of form that we're expecting here tonight in terms of the cars available? Well, we are looking at what is arguably down in the paddock. This is the room I'm hearing along the paddock pit wall at the moment. The car to beat, and that is the Hyundai Veloster M, for the simple reason its jack of all trades nature works very well here at a circuit that does not expose perhaps a slight deficit in straight line speed, and that is the car has great straight line acceleration up to and including 5th gear. It also has great cornering abilities. It's got strong brakes on it, and it's also got a very hyperactive front and rear end in terms of when you really want to go through these chicanes. Alternatively, on the longer corners, you can really get this car to tuck into the corners and carry a lot of speed on through, and that's why we're expecting the Veloster to do very well. And it is Pike right now in the Elantras at the very top. We did see a number of Velosters up there at the end of practice, including Wayne Douglas, and Will can at least find the time out. They're currently in P7, and he'll be looking to try and move his way a little bit further up the board. Now, coming on to some of our other cars, we see Jamie Dory striking back, and then Joseph Doble striking back. We see the Honda Army here for NDA Honda Racing making the way into turns 1 and 2, and I wonder if they're making a little bit of a photo opportunity here, as well as their qualifying opportunity, given the fact they've taken that championship crown as of round 6 in the Teams Championship. But we are expecting the Honda to give the Veloster a good run for its money today, despite the 75 kilograms of success bars, and the reason being this car is very strong in the corners and also on the brakes, and in the trail braking zones, so into turns 1 and 2, and also in turns 6, 7, and the run from 11, 12 to 14, that is where we're expecting the Honda to do very well and make up some lap time under braking. However, this car may lose out compared to the Veloster, indeed to its peers, will be in the straight line acceleration stakes, because whilst our drivers will not be spending a huge amount of time in say 5th or 6th gear, there is a lot of acceleration from low speed over the course of the lap here, and that is something the Honda does struggle with compared to the other cars. Now, meanwhile, when we talk about the Audi, well, we only have the one Audi here today, and that's being driven by Verano Motorsport's Gavin Gardner. Continues to fly the flag for the German manufacturer. The RS3 heads on around turn at number 7 there, and up towards the 8, 9, 10 at chicane of McDonald's. As he comes on through here, we're expecting the Audi to be the weakest car, given the fact that it is a car that's focused a little bit more on straight line speed compared to corners, but it's also quite a stable car, and that does go in its favour, particularly if it does hit those curves quite high early on into the braking zone. So therefore, for Gardner, it's all going to be about pitching himself as best he can and looking to try and pick up those points where he can, and also capitalise on the mistakes of others, because when he's in the stable car here compared to other drivers who've been going to be quite unstable machinery by comparison, he may just be able to find a way to pick up where others drop it on the circuit. And then of course we do have the Hyundai Elantras, one being piloted by Andrew Pike, who we talked about earlier, as we see him here behind Bernardo Colbe, and as he makes his way into turn number 14, the Elantra N, very strong one-lap pace car. We've always talked about how strong this car is in qualifying. We're expecting it to go very well in the qualifying session, but as for in the race itself, it may just struggle a little bit given the amount of corners here and how aggressive this circuit is with regards to tyre wear, and tyre conservation is not going to be something our drivers really want to go for, given the fact that these are sprint races, and therefore you've got to be on your ultimate pace route. We could see our Elantras really fall off the pace with that 50 kilograms of success ballast, as well as they make their way deeper and deeper into the 12-lap races. Around lap 9, we may just see the Elantras start to fall off the pace compared to what they can do at the very start of the race. But as the drivers make the way on around him, we have cleared almost the first third of qualifying and head into the second third. Well, we've got plenty of time still to go, and as our drivers make the way on around, we'll very shortly get an on board lap with one of our drivers, and we've got a couple of drivers making their way down towards the final corner, or exiting the final corner right now. And well, we also have Daniel Holmer here heading on through turn number 14, and we ride on board here with the Elantra driver as he takes us around for a lap of the Oschersleben Motorsport Centre Grand Prix circuit. So he makes his way down towards turn number 1, bringing the car over to the right hand side and powering up through the gearbox into 5th gear. And as he looks his right for his brake marker at the marshal's post, trail braking in now down to 4th, and then drops the car down to 3rd, down to 2nd as he attacks the apex curve there, lets the car go out a little bit, then brings it back like a V shape as he makes his way out to turn number 2, powers out here up into 3rd gear, and now brings the car gradually over to the right hand side for turn number 3. Using the marshal's post once again there as his brake marker down to 2nd gear, gets it nice and high on the apex curve, and then powers out from 2nd up into 3rd as he makes his way up towards triple left at turns 4 through to 6. Here it's all about balancing the throttle control as he makes his way on in. From 4th gear, he'll power in, lift off the throttle, bring the car down to 3rd as he puts the brakes on for 5, and then into 6 he goes in 3rd gear, and then bring the car and pointed towards the apex of 7. Again, another V-shape approach as he makes his way out of 7, clearing the apex point, and as he makes his way up towards the McDonald's chicane, now turns 8, 9, 10, into the right-hander, flat out here, clatters over the curbing, and then makes his way into turn 10 where you've got to use the brakes, gets a little bit too much speed on entry there, and can't quite shave it off in time on braking. and therefore the car drifting away from Homer as he makes his way down the back straight and in towards turn number 11. As he heads down towards the braking zone, brake markers on the left-hand side, braking up approximately 70 metres from the corner apex down to third, then bringing it into turn number 12 before powering back out towards 13. Bringing the car over to the left-hand side here, getting himself set up for the braking zone. Holding it in further, letting the car rolling, and now keeping it on the exit curb in, braking down on the pit entry point into turn number 14, down to second gear. Powers out, uses all the runoff area and a little bit more. They're taking a bit of gravel with him. Now a straight line his way to the timing line, and what's it going to be for Homer? Improved in sector 1 and sector 3. He jumps from P11 to P8, and what is there? P6 in class. A nice lap from Daniel Homer from Bright Esports, and it's been a pleasure riding on board with him as always with regards to the laps he's able to deliver, and that's why he's up there in the Pro Championship standings. But as he makes his way onto another lap, you saw how over the course of the lap there, our driver's having to do a lot of hard work under braking and also really having to dig the car into corner apex. And as we said earlier, this circuit is very aggressive on tyre wear. Now the question you may be asking is, well, what's our weather like currently with respect to the track conditions? Well, as we can see, they're albeit a little bit obscured by our sponsors, so we will just have them fade out very briefly. We can see that with regards to ambient temperature, 24 degrees centigrade, but the bigger quotient here, look at that track temperature at the bottom. 42 degrees, and that is boiling right now with regards to how hot this track surface will feel for those tyres and for the Elantras. When you start to see that track temperature go above 40, that's where they really start to feel the pinch when it comes to tyre degradation. But as we bring up the weather back behind the tower and look to have our sponsors back there once again, we can see that Isaac Doble making his way on through and around through turns 1 and 2 right now. Well, looking to try and find a better lap out there as he makes his way for the right-hander, and we do say hello there to Davide Barbo in the YouTube chat. It says, good evening, gents. Sorry, no CSA racing drivers this evening. Still watching the action though. Good luck to all the drivers. It is a shame. We were wondering what happened to the CSA racing team, but it's good to hear from you, Davide, and we do miss you all out to the circuit, but at the same time, we hope to have you all back for Interlagos for the season finale next week, because of course it wouldn't be the same without the South African contingent taking on the Brazilian circuit. But as we do see here, Isaac Doble making his way on around and seemingly having a bit of a difficult run, having to back off there and let other drivers on through this lap, really not going his way. Currently lowest placed driver of all, and everybody has put a lap time in of our 24 drivers. Our 24th place driver right now, Jonathan Collins, 4.3 seconds off of the overall pole lap, the provisional pole lap set by Wayne Douglas of 33.797. We'd imagine here that Collins is going to find a little bit more time as time wears on. I think right now just trying to bring himself up to speed and temperature as he makes his way on around and comes down towards turn number 3. But as he heads on, in fact not turn number 3, we thought we were at turns 1 and 2, in fact we're at turns 7 up towards 8, 9 and 10. But as he makes his way on out and now down towards turn number 11, we also say hello there to Elwin Sykes in the YouTube chat who says engine, and they'll put it down to engine failures with regards to CSA racing cars. And we also see Davide Favo there confirming that CSA racing will 100% be there at Interlagos, which is fantastic to hear. But as we see Jonathan Collins coming on down towards turn number 13, bringing his way on through the right-hander right now. Can he find a way to bring it all together right at the end as he makes his way on through the right-hander here of turn number 14? Well, he's improved in sectors 1 and 2. He comes towards sector 3, and as he crosses the line, that does not improve in sector 3. 4.3 seconds off previously. Did we get an update? No, that was not a valid lap therefore, and he's got to do it all again. He may have had the lap invalidation as we gather at turn number 8-9 as he made his way through the chicane there. With our drivers take too much of the apex to turn number 9 and they hit the bollards, it is an invalidated lap. But as they make the way on around, we do look from a driver who's at the bottom of the standings to a driver who's right towards the top, and Andrew Pike once again takes over the camera here as he drifts his way at turn number 10. Well, goodness me, now that was very close to going horrifically wrong for the Sim Racing Collective driver, but you can tell he's pushing. He's now 1.5 tenths or just over from Wayne Douglas, and he's really trying to hold on to what will be that front row spot, and that front row spot could be critical to success given the fact that it is a short run to turn number 1, but more importantly, if you're going to be on the outside into turn 1, it puts you on the inside for turn number 2, and that's what Pike will be looking for as best he possibly can as he makes his way through turn number 14. As he comes on through, we look to one driver who in the Prime class right now holds the provisional pole time in the Prime class of what is a 34.12, and he's P4 overall with 3 places between himself and closest rival Matthew Addy in terms of lap time in the class. It's Joseph Doble here who is absolutely flying, and Mikey Doble right now half a tenth faster than his brother. But as they make the way on around here, Joseph Doble definitely has been putting in the work in the practice session, because this is the strongest pace we've seen from him in the qualifying session all season. And right now, well, on that second row, you can imagine if it works out this way, that will put him in very good stead for not just race number 1, but also the races over the course of tonight. Presuming there's no incidents and he's able to hold on to the position, then he will be in a very nice spot when he takes the grid for race number 2, and also he'll definitely be in contention for that reverse grid in race number 3. But still, that's a long way off yet. We can only theorise right now with 6 minutes still to go, plus overtime, of course, for the final laps. Our drivers are on when the clock strikes 20 minutes. But as we see Joseph Doble heading into turns 13 and 14, we'll very shortly be riding on board with him for a reference lap here as he makes his way into the corner. In fact, we're not going to be riding on board as he dips his way into the pit lane there and decides he wants to put on a fresh pair of boots. But as he makes his way on in, we do look to Nick Clevins meanwhile, and we'll get the onboard here from our Honda iRace eSports driver as he makes his way towards the timing line, and we bring up the dashboard in the bottom right corner of your screen. He's making his way down towards turn number 1 and heading onto the brakes shortly. Up through the gearbox he goes, and as he gets onto the anchors here, we'll see it go a little bit late on the brakes compared to our Elantra lap earlier, because the Honda does have the brakes, has the stronger ability to retard the car. And as he makes his way through turn 2 and up towards 3 now, powering out nice and early. But notice now as he makes his way through the gearbox, this is where the Honda really loses the time. With that 75 kilograms of success balance as well, that acceleration really feels as though he's been slowed as he makes his way out of 3 and up towards 4. Now coming into triple left here, the Honda once again should hold on to this quite nicely as he flows his way into the open part, lift off, and then bringing the car in a downshift, drops the car a little bit wide there at the turn 5 apex, but brings it back together for turn number 6. That's going to cost him about half a tenth, given the fact he didn't quite have the perfect line, but still he'll take what he's got. And as he makes his way out of turn 6 and 7, now up towards 8, 9, up into third gear, flying through the chicane here like clockwork into turn 10, gets it nicely, stops on the brakes, down to second, back up to third, quick downshift and upshift there to get the car in throw, and now down the back straight he goes. He makes his way up towards turn number 11, and then heading on to the brakes here, braking only 50 metres from corner apex at 11 into 12 he goes. And as he brings the car in through, you can notice the position of the car is very strong, but it's just that lack of speed being carried to the next corner that's really impacting the Honda as he makes his way up towards turn number 14. Down to first gear here, dropping all the way down to the bottommost gear, and then powering out in second gear, and that's going to give him quite a bit of front end wheel spin as he makes his way to the timeline and crossing the line here in fourth gear. What's it going to be for Clevins at this time around? We does not improve on that lap. It's 34.926 and his previous best of 34.33, so he's a long way off at the moment. He hasn't got long to try and improve. Currently P7 overall, P6 in class, but I think he'll be happy with the fact that he'll be on the full throw of the grid and inside the top 10. And of course, the further down the grid you qualify, the greater the propensity to be involved in a little bit of argy-bargy or door rubbing into turns 1 and 2. And of course, what of us running the Grand Prix circuit, the original opening left-hander. Well, I won't repeat the words of infamous touring car driver turned commentator for the BTCC of John Cleland, but let's just say the original turn 1 was a sharp right-angled left-hander into the turn 2 as it's currently seen. And well, with that in mind, it used to lead to a lot of racing incidents at the very start, and well, some words were said with regards to the track designer and what should be done with regards to their approach to designing the circuit. But again, it's a little bit not safe for work in terms of repeating those exact words from BTCC legend John Cleland, so therefore we'll focus on here and now. And with the circuit being smoothed out at turn at number 1, the instant chance is going to be low, but still our drivers will be trying to charge into the lead. We are instant on the opening of this race, and right now a couple of drivers will be looking to try and find a way to really gain in terms of time. We can see Sam Smith here making his way out of 10 and down towards 11, and does seem to be losing quite a bit of time in the run as he comes on down, and only P12 at the moment. Not to belittle him, but this is not the way he wants his day to go after such a strong run in the last 2 rounds, and that's going to put him well off the major pro pack there. He is currently P9 in class, P12 overall as he makes his way through 13 and into 14. But as he comes on down, we look to our pro provisional pole sitter and overall pole sitter right now, and that is Wayne Douglas, who makes his way across the line. His pole lap of 33.80, one of only 2 drivers to achieve a 33. The other one, Andrew Pye, with Mikey Doble on a 34.07 P3 at the moment, trying to creep into the 33s, albeit Doble was in the pit lane at the moment. Okay, Mikey Doble was in the pit lane, and therefore he will not be out there for another lap. So Mikey Doble has decided to call it early, and now can anybody potentially drop Mikey Doble a little bit further down the order, but also can anybody get themselves onto that top end row, that front row, and get themselves nicely in position for the run into turn at number 1. Well, Wayne Douglas here would argue, no, nobody's going to get close, but I say that. And then Andrew Pike right now has improved to a 33.83 on that previous lap. He is now only 3.5 hundredths off of Douglas's pole lap, and can Pike go one step further here and potentially get himself his maiden pole position of the series as he makes his way into turn number 7. Well, flying on through here right now, his Sector 1 time has not been improving. What about his Sector 2 time? Well, we've got to wait for an update, and actually he's not quite at the end of Sector 2. Sector 2 being on the run down the back straight, but as he makes his way through turn number 10 and onwards towards 11 here, Pike is really going for it. He'll have one more lap after this. He'll just squeeze another lap in. And will that next lap be the ultimate lap? Perhaps this is the Saito lap. Perhaps it's the lap where he's putting it to 99.9%, and then he'll activate that last 0.1% and give it everything he's got as he makes his way on down. But he improves again in Sector 2. So Sector 2 is where Pike is a little bit weaker compared to where he'd like to be on lap. In fact, he's just improved by 100. And I think now if he can find improvement in the other two sectors, he may just be able to dethrone Wayne Douglas right at the end. With 20 seconds to go here, he'll go on to one more lap as we see Watt doing a little bit of tyre warming. But as we see it, Pike crossing the line. Is it enough to jump up? No, it is not enough. He stays where he is for now. Meanwhile, can Matthew Addy find a response to Joseph Doble going on to his last lap? Now laps are going to become ever more critical because the clock strikes 20 minutes, and now the checker flag comes out in this session, and it is time for our drivers to finish their final laps. Now we do have Luke Jones crossing the line here. He takes his checker flag, and currently P18. What is their P7 in the Prime class? Does not improve from his previous best of 35.15. Our next drivers making their way on around behind. Well, we do have Joseph Doble coming out the final corner, and I believe just in front of him there, that is Jamie Dory. And as Jamie Dory crosses the timing line in the number 1 car, currently 8.5 tenths off in P14, he improves to P12, now just 7 tenths off, and we see behind there Joseph Doble does not improve, but he is still a pole sitter in the Prime class. We also do have Martin Shirley coming through the final corner here, and the SimTech Racing driver in the Veloster, currently P4, 3 tenths off of pole. Is this going to be an improvement? He's improved in Sector 2, it'll come down to the final sector. He crosses the line, he doesn't improve in Sector 3, it's not an improvement overall for him. We've also got Daniel Homer. Well, in fact, Daniel Homer is headed into the pit lane. We've got Isaac Doble making his way out of the final corner as he comes on through. What's it going to be for Isaac Doble at the line? Currently P19. He takes the gravel. However, that may be an invalidated lap. It may have cost him dear right to the end. As meanwhile, Wayne Douglas across the line improves in sectors 1 and 3. A 33.685. He raises the bar to 1.5 tenths. Can Pike correspond as Pike crosses the timeline? It's a 33.708. It would have been enough for pole if Douglas had not improved, but in the end Pike's not able to find enough time and then some to get it done, and we've still got a couple more making their way on around. Matthew Addy into the pit lane, and I believe Bernardo Colbe has had an off track, and that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and it is Wayne Douglas who takes his maiden pole position of the season overall and in the Pro class, and for Joseph Doble it's a maiden pole position, P6 overall, but pole position in the Prime class. As I mince my words, but I'll mince not this. We are going racing very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying is complete, and well, we've got a definite shake-up of the grid with Andrew Pike and Wayne Douglas on that front row. It is going to be interesting to see which one of them wants it more in the run to turns 1 and 2 in race number 1. And also Joseph Doble, 4 places clear of his next rival Matthew Addy. Can he use this as a springboard to bring home his maiden win in the NXTCC? Well, time is ticking down. We haven't got long before we go to the grid, but definitely a thriller of a qualifying session, and now we wait the transition to the race. So as they get ready to line up on the grid for race number 1, this is how they will stand on the grid. For round 7, race number 1 of the NXTCC Season 2, Wayne Douglas takes his maiden pole position for NXTGEN Racing Yellow, joined by Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective. Mikey Doble for NDA Honda Racing starts off row number 2, joined by SimTech Racing's Martin Shirley, and then we have Daniel Holmer from Bright Esports, joined on the 3rd row by our prime pole sitter of Joseph Doble. Then it is the pair of Gavin Garner and Nick Clemens on row number 4, with Adam Delmont and Matthew Addy completing the top 10. Ian Manners for 52 Silver Crest Racing there, a little bit outside the top 10, but still he'll be pleased with that P11 to be on the 6th row, ahead of Jamie Dory, the reigning champion in the Pro and Overall Championship for NDA Honda Racing P12, and then behind them on row number 7 it's Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, joined by Alan McCain, his teammate. Then Reese Watt from JW Motorsport P15, joined by Michael Leese on the 8th row, with the 9th row going to Lee Horn and Luke Jones, and then we have the pair of Isaac Doble and Liam Silkstone completing the top 20. Outside the top 20 on row number 11 it's Bernardo Colbe and Philip Bruberg, with Mark Sykes and Jonathan Collins on row number 12, and that is how they'll line up on the grid for race number 1, ladies and gentlemen. But with the grid currently forming, we are only moments away from going racing, less than 50 seconds. Well, who will be able to find the ability to break away and take an early lead here? And we suspect, as we reload our overlay there and make sure you've got the circuit map in the top right corner of your screen, it's going to be the charge between Wayne Douglas and Andrew Pike. But who is going to be leading come the exit of turns 1 and 2? Will there be a coming together in the opening corners? Will we see somebody get a better launch from behind? It's going to be a standing start, as is the tradition in the NXTCC. And now we await the lights. One red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for race number 1 here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena as Wayne Douglas gets a brilliant start. But look at Andrew Pike, meanwhile, immediately find himself being attacked from both sides as they make their way down towards turn number 1. Mikey Doble on his outside, Martin Shirley is inside, they break into turn 1. Doble holds it round the outside, but he can't quite find it. Meanwhile, Shirley goes a little bit deep, and further back there we can see all the drivers coming on through and together. But it looks like everybody able to survive the run through turns 1 and 2. And as they clear on out now with drivers 3 or 2 wide on the corner exit, they've got to calm it down and figure out where they want to be in the sequence. As meanwhile, Mikey Doble here battling with Andrew Pike, and Pike has to dig in behind Martin Shirley, has pressure from Joseph Doble behind as they make them out of turn 3 and down towards turn number 4. But also there a little bit further back, look at Ian Manners, who's gained a bit of ground. He battles with Matthew Addy to turn number 4, but he can't quite find a way past the Prime Championship leader as they make the way into the triple left-hander. Now coming up through, we've got a driver off, and that is Reese Watt, who goes a little bit deep, but he catches the car in time and finds some space to fill his way back on in. As meanwhile, Gavin Garn there battling side by side with Adam Delmont in the hunt for P8 overall as they make the way out of turn number 7 and up towards the chicane of 8-9. Now coming on through, it's going to be line at stern ahead. There's no real way to go too wide as they make the way into turn number 10, and everybody settles down for a brief moment before they start to go on the offensive in the run down the back straight. Now it's a short run, so as a result we're not expecting any major moves. It will be about should anyone have made a mistake on the previous corner, and you can see that Matthew Addy taking a little bit of a peek versus Adam Delmont behind Garner as they make the way on through turns 11 and 12, but no change at the moment as they all try and find an upper hand on one another, coming towards the end of the lap in the run down towards turn number 1 on the next one. But meanwhile, Mark Sykes, they're gaining some place, they'll start gaining 4 places overall as he makes his way down into turn number 13. He'll be looking to try and find a little bit more than that as time wears on, but Jonathan Collins in the rear picture gets it a bit wrong, and as they make the way coming out of turn number 14, they head down to 1 once again. Well, after 1 lap, it is Douglas who leads by an advantage of 1.7 seconds over Pike in P2, Mikey Doble in P3, followed by Joseph Doble P4, your prime leader Joseph Doble, Holmer in P5, followed by Shirley P6, then it's Clevens, Guard, that Delmont, and then Addy who completes the top 10 as they make the way through, but Delmont goes a bit deep at turn number 2, and Matthew Addy picks up the place, then moves into P9, left the rest behind him is Ian Manners right now, who's trying to come on back as they make the one through, but he's got pressure from behind from Jamie Dory, as you can see Gavin Garner there. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont up the inside of Matthew Addy, who leaves the door open, and then some as he lets Delmont on through, but Delmont takes the grass, and we see Michael Leeds as well, looks as though there, both the Excite Racing drivers finding the way into the grass and not wanting to do so as they rejoin, but they'll lose some ground, albeit Adam Delmont does not lose out at all as they make the way into turn 6 and 7. Now coming on through the right hander, you can see behind that Jamie Dory really trying to get the pace, picked up with regards to Ian Manners in front. Manners right now seemingly a little bit of a fly in the ointment with regards to the pace. He wants to put a bit of a cork in the bottle, should we say, as they make the way through turn number 10. But then again, Manners has earned his place there in P11 based on position in qualifying, a great run in qualifying, and right now Dory taking a little bit of a look around the outside, but he can't quite find it. In fact, it'd be the inside into turn number 11, but a little bit of a bob and weave there and no way through at the moment. As meanwhile McCain a little bit further back here, P9 in the prime class, P19 also trying to size up Philip Bruberg here as they make the way through 11 and 12 for the second time of asking. But as they come on through, we're hearing that Sam Smith's been involved in a major incident on the open lap. We're not quite sure what happened to Sam Smith. We'll get a replay of that very shortly. In fact, it's coming up now. So this is what happened to Sam Smith on the open lap of turns 4, 5 and 6. Oh, goodness me. And that is not good news. I believe that was contact with, well, not Liam Silkstone. We're trying to see which of the iRacing cars it was. The iRacing Esports cars. I think it was Alan McCain and the 2 iRacing Esports drivers coming together as we return to the live pictures. And I think, in fact, we do have Liam Silkstone getting a bit wrong. We've got a car off there, slightly off camera. Now, who is that? I think that is Jonathan Collins. No, that's not Jonathan Collins. That is Liam Lee Horn who's got it horrifically wrong. And what exactly has happened to Lee Horn as we take a look back? This is in the run towards turn 1. A bit of grass there under braking into turn 1, and the car's just gone on Lee Horn. And the Next Gen Racing yellow driver just became a passenger in the car by dipping a toe, or a wheel in this case, onto the grass under braking into the opening corner. Unfortunate for Lee Horn, and it is a toe to the pits with the damage he picked up the impact from the wall. As we look to Jonathan Collins here making his way on through, the last of the drivers who really is on the main lap, with Sam Smith just a little bit far for dropping a lap behind as it currently stands. We do have a bit of a battle here, just a bit ahead of what is there. Jonathan Collins, it's Liam Silkstone battling hard with Luke Jones, who gets on through there in the run into the chicane. They're battling for P10 in the Pro class, P20 overall, as they make the way on down towards turn number 11. And as they come onto the races, Silkstone's going to back up the inside, and when they're going for it, they may not be battling for a podium or the top 5 in the Pro class, but every point's precious to them as they make the way through. And Silkstone, never classic move on the inside into 11, gets it done. But meanwhile, we look a bit further up the order and back towards the top 10, and we focus on Martin Shirley for Simtech Racers. He makes his way across the timeline and down towards turn number 1. And riding on board here with the Simtech Racing driver in the number 5, Veloster, what you can start to see now is how this top 6 is starting to spread a little bit, as everybody running in the toe of one another is starting to lose a little bit of front end, and also having to worry about that tyre wear with the high track temperatures here. Of course, we mentioned in qualifying 42 degrees centigrade was the track temperature there, and you can imagine if that's what it's like in qualifying, now they're turning the laps in anger in the race, which is only going to get warmer or stabilised there as the day progresses. And right now the Simtech Racing driver using every little bit of the track width and the surface in order to be able to get close enough to Daniel Holmer. But now in this back and forth, you've got to imagine there, for every little bit of time he gains on the straights in the toe, he'll lose out with regards to excess tyre wear, and also just a lack of front end grip for a loss of front end downforce as he makes his way up through the extended corners, including 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, as he makes his way up into the right hander of 8 and through at 9 into 10. But as he comes roaring on through here, we've still got plenty of laps to go, and of course mistakes from drivers could prove rather critical, as we see there a rare mistake from Daniel Holman, goes a little bit deep through 10 of the car, just to be just away from him. Martin Shirley looks up the inside here, he's going to have to go for it, he's going to go all in on the brakes, and as he makes his way under braking, well, Holman's not going to let go, he's going to hold the inside, returning to 12. Shirley gives them the space, but as they make the way out the corner, Shirley gets it done. A little bit of door knock between the two of them into 11, but still that's racing as they make the way through 13 up into 14. And now the Simtech Racing driver moves up into the top 5, P4 in the Pro class. His next target, of course, will be prime leader of Joseph Doble as they make the way across the timeline for lap number 5. But as they come on through, just behind them, Nick Clemens running in P7 here. He's got Gavin Garner left, right and centre all over his rear as they make the way on towards turn number 1. Garner's going to take a look here, using the straight line speed of the Audi, but it's of course going to be a run inside to outside into turn 2 for Gardner, and he has to back off there as Clemens keeps him at bay. And we ride on board the rear here of Clemens' car, and those 4 rings of the Audi definitely are looking menacing as they make the way up towards turn number 3. Now Clemens here defending, of course, this is the territory where the Honda can be strong. It's short runs to the next corner, and therefore the Audi cannot deploy its weapon of straight line speed, and Clemens in return can use the brakes on the Honda to be able to just simply frustrate that Audi behind as they make the way into turn 4, 5 and 6. There you can see how close Gardner's trying to get into the head of his rival as they make the way into turn number 7. But look at Delmont behind as they come on through the long right hander, and Delmont looking for that opportunity. Gardner right now, I think he really wants to get this move done, but of course wishing it's going to happen is not the same thing as making it happen on the circuit. And well, he's got to find a way to get under the skin of Clemens. To do so, I think he's got to put the pressure on. He does as Clemens goes wide, coming out of turn number 10, and he rejoins. But for Gavin Garner, this is going to be enough of an opening to come on through, and Clemens now tucks back in, and Delmont's not able to capitalise as Matthew Addy sits there on through. But as they head down towards 11, we look a little bit further back to Isaac Doe and Bernardo Colby on the inside, and as they make the way from the right into left here, 11, 12, they're still side by side of quarter exit. Great race in between. Oh, goodness me! And the two drivers come together as Colby brings it across by the looks of things, and Doble in the end collected with him, and both drivers there in a matrix, and Doble with a damaged front left tyre, and I think Bernardo Colby in the gravel with a collapsed front left suspension, and that's a disaster for the pair of them. But meanwhile, we look back here to Adam Delmont, who right now chasing after Nick Clemens, continues to try and put the pressure on Clemens. We saw Clemens only moments ago make a major error coming out to turn number 10 and never lose the place in the relative scheme of things. A major error, of course, versus Gavin Gardner, and now Delmont will be looking to try and do the same in terms of putting pressure onto his fellow Honda driver, albeit not on the same team. But as they make the way out to turn number 3, we look behind, you can see Matthew Addy there not able to break away from Ian Manners, and I think right now Matthew Addy, much like Delmont, feels that he's got a bit more pace at his fingertips, but they just cannot seem to find their way past the cork in the bottle. That is Nick Clemens as they make their way into 6-7. As they come through the long right hand, and Gavin Gardner also not breaking away at the moment, but he is gradually inching himself away increment by increment. I think for Gardner it's all about the latter half of lap, so the run out of turn 10 here, where he's able just to put the hammer down a little bit more until they come around towards turn number 1 the next time on the lap. But as they make the way up towards 11, you can see how Addy here a little bit further back, Delmont very close to the rear of Clemens by comparison, and Addy doesn't need to pass them, to be fair, in order to gain places in the prime class. The only driver ahead of him prime wise is prime leader Joseph Doble from P4, who is already 6 seconds clear almost of Matthew Addy. So for Addy, it's all about P2 right now, and if he finishes P2, that'll do more than enough with regards to his championship aspirations to keep him firmly in control of that championship lead. So this is a good result for him either way he cuts it, but as they make the way out to the final corner here onto lap number 7, we look to Adam Delmont as they transition to the second half of the race and make his way down towards turn number 1. The iRacing driver close, but not close enough to force the issue as they make the way through turn number 2, but so close he could reach out there and touch the rear of the iRacing Esports Honda in front. As they make the way out towards turn number 3, you can see how top 6 are breaking away very gradually, and meanwhile everybody else seems to be finding themselves stuck behind the pair of Gavin Gardner and also Nick Clemens as they make the way out of 3 and up towards 4. Also in this, and let's not forget about him after a difficult qualifying session, but gaining 2 places and 1 in class at the start of the race. Reese Watt for JW Motorsport up into P13, P4 in the prime class. He's also not too far for hunting down Manners and Addy to get himself onto that prime podium, and that's what he needs, of course, to really revitalise his championship aspirations as he makes his way out to turn number 7. As they make the way up towards the chicane of 8, 9, 10 through McDonald's, well, you can see right now the only driver behind what close range is Michael Lees, albeit the pro driver, who not really showing any signs of gaining or losing. And then the next big battle further down the order is the battle for P16, or P6 in the prime class, and Mark Sykes finds himself in the midst of it. It's Philip Bruberg goes up to position, and he loses the rear end of the car, and they come together, and Sykes is tapped into the wall, and he comes back across the circuit and becomes a passenger. And for Philip Bruberg, well, getting himself stabilised came at the cost of Sykes being involved in a major shunt there, and well, for Philip Bruberg that could have gone far, far worse, but meanwhile for Mark Sykes it's the worst it could have been. But we take a look back at what exactly happened. This is on board from Bruberg's perspective. The rear of the car snapped, went one way, went the other, stabilised it, and then made contact with Mark Sykes, caught the grass after that, and that is what led to the Bright Esports driver coming back together. But meanwhile, what about Mark Sykes, I hear you ask? Well, this was from Mark Sykes' perspective. Swung one way, swung the other, and then wham on the side of the car. Also on the grass, having taken that evasive action, the car almost going over, and thank goodness it's still upright, but I hope he's all right. But as we return to the live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, well, that was an absolute horror moment of an incident, and well, I'm pleased to say that Mark Sykes has been towed to the pits and all seems to be okay, albeit the car will need quite a bit of repair work. But we meanwhile look at Philip Bruberg here, who is continuing on, but I imagine he's got quite a bit of damage to that bodywork, and that maybe cost him some straight line speed. But as he makes his way on down, we look a little bit further up the order to Nick Clemens and Adam Delmont, who continue to battle, and behind them Matthew Addy and Ian Manners. And we just had it mentioned by Alan Loof in the YouTube chat that Ian Manners, or Mr. Maz, is racing with a numb mouth due to dental work, so he's doing good regarding that. And indeed, I can't imagine that is a comfortable feeling in that cockpit right now with regards to that numbness in the mouth and the cheeks, and it's definitely going to cost him. But I can tell you one thing that is also going to make Delmont feel a little bit numb, and that's Adam Delmont, is the fact he tries to make the move on Nick Clemens, and Clemens finds a way to keep him at bay. And well, what do you have to do to get past the iRace Esports machine? That is the big question. Well, turns 11 and 12 are not where that move is going to come from as they make the way out of 14. Meanwhile, behind, Ian Manners has found his way past Adam Delmont, albeit briefly, and as they make the way down towards turn number 1, it's a battle for P2 in the prime class here. We're going to have to take a look back at how this all started, but Manners gets ahead of, where's Matthew Addy there, and now takes P10 overall, but he goes a bit deep out of 2, and this could be an opportunity for Addy to come back in as they make the way up towards turn number 3. It's Manners on the right of your picture, Addy on the left of your picture. The Velocitas battle side by side. Behind them is Jamie Dory, who wants to try and get past the pair of them. Addy goes a bit high and out on the wide, but as they make the way out to 3 and down towards 4, Ian Manners holds the position there in a very stoic defence as they make the way into turn 4, and now it's Dory in the inside of Addy. They're going to go too wide all the way through triple left. You don't normally see this, and well, Addy there holds the run to the inside into 7, makes Dory go deep as a result to give him the space, and as they come out to turn number 7, Matthew Addy, despite losing one place, digs in and says, once enough, I'm not losing 2. But this all started with a battle between Adam Delmont and Nick Clibbins, and well, right now the two of them, Clibbins and Delmont, continue to be nose to tail as they make the way down towards turn number 11 once again, and also Jamie Dory continued to hound the back of Matthew Addy as they make the way into 11. Well, there, Addy made to go a bit deep, but he'll park it on apex for 12, but Dory gets the cut back, but it's going to be a run to a right-hander in the next corner, and Dory's got to go a long way round, as you can see behind him, Michael Lees takes a peek up the inside. There's contact between Matthew Addy and Jamie Dory just ahead. They come back together on circuit. It is getting very ugly between the two of them right now in terms of knocks and scrapes here, but it's touring car, and as they make the way out of the final corner and down towards turn number 1, 2 more laps to go after the one they've gone on to, 3 to go on lap number 10, and right now drivers are battling left, right and centre in the midfield. It's gone quite in time in terms of the top 6, but outside the top 6 it could not be louder in terms of the amount of battling as they make the way on through. And right now Matthew Addy lose out versus Reese Watt as well, and well, I think we need a moment to dissect these battles that have just occurred, starting with Adam Delmont versus Nick Clibbins that kicked it all off. So this was on the previous lap, on lap number 8, and as they made the way down into turn number 11, Delmont on the inside of Clibbins, but Clibbins in return showing no signs of backing off, dropped off the inside curb there, and that led to a little bit of contact between himself and Delmont, which led to Delmont going a little bit off circuit and then returning, but trying to find his way back into the momentum as they made the way into turn number 14, and then Matthew Addy in the concertina locking up and the rear cutting loose under braking into 14, and that is what gave Ian Manners every opportunity he needed to then come on through and make the run in towards turns 1 and 2. But as they made the way down to the braking zone here, well, Manners went round the outside and Addy had no way other than to back off and then try and keep Jamie Dory at bay. But then with regards to a lap later coming into the final corner with Addy and Dory battling so hard, well, Reese Watt here with the two of them squaring up against one another just simply said, well, don't mind if I do, I'll take the inside line and hold it for you, as they make the way down towards turn number 1, and Reese Watt just got it done here by simply capitalising on the battling around him. And now as we return to the live pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, what I am hearing, we have had a major incident for Nick Clibbins that has just occurred, and Nick Clibbins has had to be towed to the pit, so there's been more battling off camera as we return to these live pictures. 2 laps to go, including the one they're on lap 11 of 12, and well, as we look to Martin Shirley here trying to hold off Daniel Holmer, further back we still have Jamie Dory battling hard with what is Michael Lees there, and Jamie Dory onto the grass, and Lees ahead, and now Michael Lees going for another move versus Matthew Addy on the inside into 3, gets Addy to go a little bit deep under braking. Addy there, well, a little bit of a wobble coming out of the corner, almost going onto the grass, and Lees will be up his inside through the long left of triple, left hand of 4, 5, 6 they go, and as they make the way towards turn 7, Addy is hung high to dry, but he's able to get it back on circuit in time to put in front of Jamie Dory, as Lees there gets it stopped and make sure that Addy cannot come back in the run out of turn number 7. But these battles absolutely fantastic, and you're right, that and great battles in the YouTube chat. And as our drivers carry on, we take a quick look back at what exactly happened to Nick Clibbins. Well, this was right in the run down towards turn number 11 behind Adam Delmont, and as they made the way through, Clibbins lost the rear of the car, trying to carry too much speed, it would seem, in the run to 12, a whack to the wall, and that was it for Nick Clibbins' race. Very unfortunate, given a great run from Nick Clibbins, but meanwhile, speaking of great runs, we return to live pictures, the white flag is out, and this is your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wayne Douglas, as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 for the final time of asking in this race, race 1 of 3 here at the Oschersleben circuit, and as he makes his way through turns 1 and 2, well, 1 second advantage almost over Andrew Pike. I think it is going to go the way of the Briton as he heads up towards turn number 3 here, but at the same time he does have a little bit of traffic in front of him, and it is difficult for cars that are a lap down or about to be a lap down to find space here to get on through and respect those blue flags, given how narrow this circuit is at the best of times. But as we see the NXTGEN Racing yellow driver here starting to come up behind the traffic, Andrew Pike will definitely be looking to try and get a bit closer and go on the offensive and capitalise here on the last few corners. But as they make the way through 6, 7, you can see there Smith staying out on the outside of turn 7, not impeding the leaders at all, and making their way on down towards McDonald's now. And as they come through the right hander of turn number 10, Pike. Well, he's clear, but he's not close enough, and I fear for him it may not be enough as he comes on through. Meanwhile, Matthew adding a bit of contact there with Michael Lee, so we just caught the tail end of that, but the NXTGEN Racing yellow driver definitely being knocked about left, right and centre, with Jamie Dory trying to hunt after Lee's here right at the end of the battle for P8 in the Pro class. But we have to look from the drives towards the back end of the Pro class to the very front, because he makes his way to the final corner. We thought he might take his maiden win at Motegi, but it wasn't to be in Japan, but it is going to be in Germany. Wayne Douglas will come to the line for NXTGEN Racing Yellow and take his maiden win of the series. He crosses the line, your winner in race number 1 overall in the Pro class, ahead of Andrew Pike, P2 today's best result of the season, and Mikey Doble on the podium there, P3. I think it may be enough to seal his championship already. Joseph Doble takes the win, his maiden win in the Pro-Am class behind his brother. Well, that's a great moment for the NDA Honda Racing outfit and the Doble brothers. Martin Shirley P5, Daniel Holmwell coming home P6, ahead of Gavin Garner P7, Adam Delmont P8 there, holding off Ian Manners, who brings home P2 in class, P9 overall for 52 Silver Crest Race in the Pro-Am driver, ahead of Reese Watt, who returns to the Pro-Am podium, ahead of Matthew Addy, who was knocked about more than most for NXTGEN Racing Yellow, P4 in class, P11 overall, and then Michael Lees and Jamie Dory there, P12, P13, with Alan McCain, P14, completing the Pro-Am top 5, ahead of what is behind him there, Liam Silkstone, P15, completes our top 15, and then Philip Bruberg there with the car in the wall, it would seem, coming out to turns 1 and 2, P16, ahead of Luke Jones, followed up by Jonathan Collins, and then it'll be Nick Clemens. They'll be your last two finishers on the lead lap, as Collins takes P18 overall, P9 in the Pro-Am class, and it'll be Nick Clemens coming home P19, P10 in the Pro class. And we have had the following drivers finish at least one lap down. That is Sam Smith, Lee Horn, Mark Sykes, Isaac Doble and Bernardo Colbe. But otherwise, Nick Clemens will be your last lead lap finisher as he comes to the line. We do have 24 out of 24 classified. And my goodness, what a fantastic race as the iRacing esports driver takes his checkered flag. But we look to Wayne Douglas here, and what a start to proceedings for the Briton from NXTGEN Racing Yellow. And given the pace he has shown, well, taking the win by 9/10 of a second in the end. It's not a huge margin, but he seems to be in control of it throughout. And well, can he make it 2 out of 2 on the bounce shortly? And also Joseph Doble there, bringing home his maiden win in class. He'll be pleased with that. And also, I do believe, and unless I'm wrong, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I believe this is also his maiden top 5 overall. And what a day it has been in race number 1 for NDA Honda Racing. But can Joseph Doble make it 2 wins out of 2 in the next race, or will the likes of Ian Manners, Reese Watt and Matthew Addy, as they all come together, have something to say about that? Well, with that in mind, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, of course. So after race 1 today in round 7 of the NXTCC Season 2, hosted at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena, brought to you on iRacing, Wayne Douglas taking his maiden win of the series in the NXTGEN Racing at Yellow Veloster by 9/10 of a second over Andrew Pike. The Sim Racing Collective driver did everything he could, but it wasn't enough in the end, but still the best result of the season for Andrew Pike so far, and he'll be going for the win in race number 2. Mikey Doble there, P3 for NDA Honda Racing, and that 2.9 second gap there, I think for Mikey Doble, we pushed it as much as he could, but bringing home P3, he knows that he only needs 15 points from today to bring home the championship crown in the Pro class. And in Joseph Doble, P4 overall, but more importantly for him, his first win of the Pro-Am class, and taking the win by a sizable margin there for NDA Honda Racing. And Martin Shirley in P5 there, completed the overall top 5 for SimTech Racing. And then we can see Daniel Holmer P6, not quite able to get close enough to Shirley right at the end, albeit on his heels for a good amount of time. Gavin Garner P7, a great race for the Verano Motorsport driver, ahead of Adam Delmont, and then Ian Manners and Reese Watt complete your overall top 10. And of course, a special mention to Ian Manners of P2 in the Pro-Am class of 52 Silver Crest Racing, and Reese Watt in P10 for 3rd place in the Pro-Am class for JW Motorsport. Best of the rest there, Matthew Addy P11, 4th in class, and he won't be too pleased, I think, with the contacts that happen, but still a good, solid result for him. P4 in class, it'll take him a long way for NXTGEN Racing Yellow. And then Michael Lee's P12 ahead of Jamie Dory. The two of them swap places right at the end, with Alan McCain, Liam Silkstone, Philip Bruberg, Luke Jones and Jonathan Malcolm Collins completing our run to 18th place. And as we carry on down the standings there, Nick Clearing's the last of the finishers on the lead lap there in 19th for iRacing Esports, with Sam Smith a lap down in P20 for iRacing Esports, and then outside the top 20, but not to be forgotten about, finishing a lap down, Lee Horn, Mark Sykes and Isaac Doble, and Bernardo Colbe, the only driver in the end, as we get it clarified, to finish multiple laps down, 7 laps down the end for Garton McColbe Racing. Not to be his race today, but of course plenty more racing to come here at the German circuit. That is race number 1, ladies and gentlemen, and very shortly we'll be gearing up to go racing once again for another 12-lap race, race number 2, in approximately 5 to 7 minutes' time. We'll be back then, but before we go away, don't forget to let us know, of course, who you're cheering on in the chat over YouTube, Twitch, alternatively on Facebook, but don't go anywhere as well, because we'll be back with the race in action before you know it. We'll see you shortly. And now we return, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 2 as you rejoin us in the NXTCC Season 2 Round 7 here today at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben in Germany. And, well, what a run of racing it has been so far. Race number 1, it was quiet at the very front of the field. The top 16 seems to battle too much, but it seems as though there they all stagnated in terms of being able to find a way past one another. But meanwhile, in the midfield, and particularly in the Prime class, in battling for second place in the class, there was battling left, right and centre. In the end, it was Ian Manners who brought home that P2 on the Prime podium ahead of Reese Watt, with Matthew Addy falling back to P4. Will it stay the same, however? Will it stay quiet at the front of the field in race number 2? Well, a good number of drivers, of course, setting first for themselves, including Joseph Doble, his maiden Prime win, and also Wayne Douglas, his maiden overall and Pro class win as well. Well, you would imagine that for our drivers, they'll be looking to give their all to try and find a way to improve upon their result in race number 1. And if they can't technically improve upon it, they'll look to consolidate in race number 2. More of the fact we do have that reverse grid draw coming up after this second race, and well, with the number 10 excluded, it does look as though arguably, based on chance and probability, we're going to be seeing a lower number, and therefore getting up through the field and making sure you're inside that top 9 is more likely going to be of value to you, rather than just hoping you can creep inside the top 12. But it's all to play for, and indeed we could see the number 12 equally appear, given the fact that every number does have an equal chance in our lottery bowl, minus the one that's been excluded for the round. So we're going to take nothing for granted, much like our drivers. But as we see them getting set here with only 2 minutes to go, we'll be able to get a quick word from any of our drivers. That is a question I don't think we will be able to at the moment, as most of them are currently in the pit lane getting themselves set. As we do see a couple of drivers rolling on through, we may just be able to get one quick word from what is our driver there of Andrew Pike, of course, who had a brilliant run in race number 1, and we will just try and grab him for a quick 30-second interview if we can, as he does. We just try to get the patch-through into his car, but just give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll try to get a word from Andrew Pike himself. And as we do get the patch-through into Andrew's car, Andrew, it was a great race number 1 for yourself, of chasing after Wayne Douglas for some time. Couldn't quite find a way past him, but towards the end, keeping the pace with the fast charging velocity in front. Can we expect you to really go for it in race number 2 and pick up your maiden win of the season?
Yeah, thanks, man. I enjoyed that. That was really hard work, but I give it everything that the car's got. I think the gap that I lost in the early laps was where I lost that race. I didn't quite have the pace of Wayne. He did set the fastest lap and was hard to stay with, but I think if I'd been within a couple of seconds sooner, I might have been able to push him into potentially a mistake. I'll certainly try and commit a bit harder in the early laps here and keep myself in it with a bit of luck.
Well, fingers crossed for you. We'll let you carry on with your preparations. There's only 30 seconds or so to go, but good luck, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Nice one, thank you.
So hearing there briefly from our Sim Racing Collective driver, Mr. Fish, or known as Andrew Pike, as he crosses the line and gets himself set. But hearing his thoughts, he feels as though he lost the race on the opening laps, and well, that is a key insight. So you can imagine now, if he can get a good start, he will really go for it all in from start to finish. And can Pike pull it off? Well, that will be the challenge that awaits him. And as for Alan McCain here, a difficult race number 1, not quite on the pace perhaps he wanted in that P2 in the championship, of course, going into tonight, but still 2 races to go, plenty of points on the scoreboard available, and can McCain find a way up there onto the podium? Well, the checkered flag comes out in this warm-up session. It's time for us to see how they all get on in race number 2. So as our drivers head to the grid, this is how they all line up for our second race of today. Wayne Douglas returns to pole position once again for NXTGEN Racing Yellow, joined by Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective. We then have in row number 2 the pair, the Doble brothers of Mikey Doble from NDA Honda Racing, with Joseph Doble for NDA Honda Racing alongside. Then it is Martin Shirley and Daniel Holmer, the SimTech Racing Bright Esports pair on the 3rd row, followed up by the combination of Gavin Gunn and Adam Delmont, the Verana Motorsport driver, having to hold off Excite Races Delmont once again. Completing the top 10 on the 5th row, Ian Manners and Reese Watt. They'll be going toe-to-toe into turn number 1, you can count on that, with Matthew Addy and Michael Lease on the 6th row, and then behind him on row at number 7, it is Jamie Dorian, Alan McCain, the NDA Honda Racing driver, trying to find a bit more ground in this race, and then Liam Silkstone and Philip Bruberg on row 8, with Luke Jones and Jonathan Collins on row 9, and completing the top 20, Nick Clemens and Sam Smith. Row 11 goes to Lee Horn and Mark Sykes, and on our final row, it's the pair of Isaac Doble and Bernardo Colbe, as well. With 1 minute to go on the clock, the gridding process is complete. It's time for us to go racing. And it's lights out and away we go for race number 2. And Next Gen Racing yellow driver Wayne Douglas pulls away, albeit with an absence of Andrew Pike on the front row. And I wonder if there's been a connection fault for Andrew Pike, but regardless, the race presses on there as they charge into turn 1 and coming on down to the braking zone here. Most drivers in a line as they come through the corners, and a bit further back, Reese Watt, they're having to try and make some early ground as Jamie Dory tucks in behind, and Michael Lees as well. And coming out to turn number 2 and up towards 3, side by side they roar, and into left-hander they go, and we can see there Daniel Homer battling on the inside of Jamie Dory as they make the way through the long left, and now up towards triple left of 4, 5, 6. But as they come out of the corner here, we can see Reese Watt taking a little bit of grass, the corner exit in front of them. It's Ian Manners who battles along the inside of Adam Delmont as they come through 4, 5 and up towards the left, right of 6, 7. And on the brakes they go, and Delmont holding that inside run into turn number 7, and Ian Manners being made to go round the outside. But as they come out of turn number 7, now up towards the chicane sequence, heading on through, well, we see their confirmation in the YouTube chat from Andrew Pike to say disconnect, couldn't make this up, but I do feel as though perhaps the commentator's curse has struck you, Mr. Pike, and I do apologise for that. But as our drivers carry on here, it's unfortunate. We hope to have you back for race number 3. Well, Ian Manners here now under pressure from what is there, Matthew Addy. As Addy looks on the inside, there's a lock-up meanwhile between what is Delmont and Gardner, as it looks like Gardner out of position. There's further contact between Manners and Gavin Gardner, and it all unfolds to the pair of them as they make their way on through the chicane. But meanwhile, this go for things up, and it's carnage as they come on down. That's Luke Jones caught in contact with, I believe it may have been, I'm not 100% sure, it looks as though there was a bit of contact. Well, Michael Lees has definitely dropped into the pit lane, so saying it's gone horribly wrong for multiple drivers here, and it's all happened right under our very nose. As meanwhile, we look to Mark Sykes here after one lap, finds himself 8 places up, and now heading into turn number 1, fending off Sam Smith and Bernardo Colbe as they make the way into the left-right. As they come on through, a bit of contact there between Sam Smith and Colbe, a brief tap between the two of them as they come through the right-hander and up towards turn number 3. Well, the circuit is clear. I doubt we'll be able to see in the safety car for everything that's happened, but it's definitely been an odd one, and we're going to have to try and unpick what exactly happened at the end of that open lap. It all kicked off right at the very end, but meanwhile, kicking off right now, Sam Smith trying to find his way up the inside of Bernardo Colbe into turn number 4. On they go, side by side. Colbe's going to hold it out on the outside. Now Smith backs out a little bit here and decides not to make it too wide all the way through the triple F, and therefore try and get the move towards the end of the lap, but behind Daniel Holmer, still watching and waiting to pounce to the Bright Esports driver, and he was also involved in that because he has lost 10 places since the start of this race. But meanwhile, one driver has gained 7 places. Well, we talked about could he have a better race number 2, and we've called it. Alan McCain, the iRacing Esports driver, has moved all the way up from 14th to 7th, and he is absolutely flying right now. As meanwhile, Jamie Dory with a slowdown there. Well, it looks like he's coming out of turn number 10 and into 11, and behind Nick Clements, battling side by side with Lee Horn as he gets ahead of the prime driver and into P11 overall. But as they make the way through 13 and into 14 and down to the braking zone, Jamie Dory into the pit lane, so there's damage to that car. Well, it looks things are saying it's gone wrong for Jamie Dory, but as he makes his way on through, we do look back to our leaders here after 2 laps turned on to lap 3. As they make the way onto the 3rd lap of racing in race number 2, it is Douglas ahead of Doble, followed by Joseph Doble in P3, and then it is a Martin Shirley at P4, and as the top 4 break the way away, they have got a 2.5 second gap to second place of the prime class. P5 overall, and Matthew Addy for Next Gen Racing yellow, followed up by Reese Watt, and it's Alan McCain, Philip Bruberg, Liam Silkstone and Nick Clemens as they make the way down towards turn number 3. Best of the rest there is Lee Horn in at P11, breaking away from Mark Sykes, but both Lee Horn and Mark Sykes making ample ground as they make the way down towards turn number 4. Into left-hand they go, and as they do, Daniel Holmer here looking up the inside of Bernardo Colbe, tries to go for the move again. Can he get it done this time with Colbe holding on? Well, Colbe goes defensive here. Holmer gets his nose ahead, but it's a long right hand, and that inside line is king. There's a little bit of door rub between the two of them. Colbe doesn't put the throttle down so as not to lean on Holmer, but they make more contact into the McDonald chicane. That in the end, Holmer has to drop back with Isaac Doble and Jonathan Collins on his 6 as they make their way up towards turn number 11. As they charge their way on down and towards the braking zone, well, we had all those major incidents only moments ago, and what exactly happened, well, we are going to find out very shortly. But before we cut back to that, Martin Shirley for Simtech Racing, having gained 3 places at the start of this race in all of what happened at the very start, also the unfortunate retirement on the grid of what was Andrew Pike for the disconnection, the equivalent of an engine not working, of course, in real world motorsport. Well, right now Martin Shirley finds himself in a rare position, which has been promoted in the run to turn number 1 and then going to P2, and now he's trying to hold off championship leader and effective champion-elect in the Pro class of Mikey Doble as they make their way out to 2 and up into 3. But as they come on through, that is Adam Delmont there a lap down, giving way, but Doble takes a swing to the inside, almost loses the car there on the quick switch, with the car just not wanted to stop in a straight line. And as they make their way into 4 here, well, Doble's left it as late as possible, but he's got to throw something at this, given the fact that velocity is so strong over the course of the lap. And as they make their way through triple left and up towards 7 right now, a bit of a tap there on the rear of Shirley's car, but Doble just not able to find a way through immediately as they make their way up towards McDonald's. But whilst that's happening, we take a look back at what exactly happened on that opening lap. This is Luke Jones firstly. Now he came into the scene of the incident and then he tried to look down the inside, but with Daniel Holmer there, and that's what led to Jones and Holmer coming together, and Luke Jones being sent along the grass for the contact with Holmer. And I think there, just thinking he was clear of Holmer, but what exactly happened to our driver of what was, I believe, Ian Manners, we'll try and find out a bit more about that very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, as we return to live pictures for a brief moment. And we focus here on the battle between Mikey Doble and Martin Shirley once again, as they come out of the final corner and on the run towards turn number 1. As they power the way down, notice how the Honda just not having the straight line speed acceleration here in the run. Instead, it's picking up in the toe now as they get about 2/3 down the straight, but that's not enough as they head into left-right seeing as Doble close up under braking, having to fight the steering wheel so aggressively. But there Shirley goes deep, but it's going to be a move immediately for Doble. He'll waste no time in seizing on this, but the one thing Shirley does have in its favour, he has the inside run into turn number 3. Now Doble here, will he look for a cutback, or will he simply tuck in around the outside, or will he do neither? Well, in fact, he goes for the outside, then tries to cut back in on apex to get the run up towards turn number 4, but he's covered off there as they make the way in towards the triple left. Well, the Honda's definitely suffering, and meanwhile, speaking of Honda's going toe-to-toe and suffering together, well, Isaac Doble right now battling with, what is there, Jonathan Collins, as Collins defends the inside, and Collins in P10 in the prime class, P15 overall, with Isaac Doble taking the peak up the inside, but having to back out as they make the way into 4, 5, 6. And as they come on through, we can now give you an update of what exactly went wrong for Ian Manners on that opening lap. Well, here is the replay, and of course with Gavin Gardner going slightly out of line, and then a weird bit of contact there for Gavin Gardner, and Ian Manners getting caught up. It looks though Gardner almost, with a little bit of latency, just got turned on around, and then everything else that unfolded after that moved through the scene of the incident. That was the whole Holmer and Jones incident. But for Gavin Gardner, what exactly happened there? We ride on board, he came into the corner, and the car just went on Gavin Gardner, and well, that is a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure, and that is what triggered it all off. As we return to the live pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, we now look back to Mikey Doble, who's battling side by side with Shirley into turn number 1 in the run on down into lap number 6 they go, and Doble gets ahead there, a better run out of 14, and I think there might have been a brief mistake for Martin Shirley on the run to the corner, and as they make the way around right now, Mikey Doble gets it done, and the NDO Honda Racing driver moves up another place, where his next target is 6.2 seconds up the road. That's how much time he has lost battling for P2. Wayne Douglas is well off into the distance, and we would argue he is clear for the remainder of this race. But as they make the way down towards turn number 4, of course that's presuming that Wayne Douglas doesn't make a big error. Now it comes the test of a maiden winner. Can he make it 2 out of 2? Joseph Doble here, P4 overall, your prime leader, but look who he's got behind him as we ride on board the rear of the Honda here. We look to one menacing looking Hyundai Veloster being piloted by NXTGEN Racing at yellows, and Matthew Addy as they make the way through the McDonald's chicane and up towards turn number 11. And Matthew Addy, of course, for that P4 in race number 1, he won't be too pleased about the fact he was elbowed off the podium, and now with an opportunity to make it a winning race 2, he'll be giving it everything, and as a minimum, of course, he will not want to lose any ground, because right behind him in terms of next driver in the order is Reece Watt, albeit there's a 4-second gap between them, but what is gradually closing here, given the fact that Addy right now is starting to come up behind Doble and lose a little bit of time. But as they make their way through turn number 14, And in the run down towards turn number 1 they go. Notice there, Doble getting a better exit initially, but this is where Addy's able to use the straight line speed and the less success balance of the Veloster to close up. And as they make the way in towards the opening pair of corners, no way through at the moment. Doble just simply having to play the racing line. Meanwhile, Addy getting closer and closer. And I think it's going to be a question of when, not if, he's going to start looking for that move as they make the way up towards turn number 4. We're coming on through here, you can see a flash of lights, but what is Joseph Doble trying to flash Martin Shirley for the simple reason to get him look and make a mistake and potentially pull him into this fight. And also behind them, you can see Adam Delmont a lap down watching on, albeit a lap down, that means he will most likely not try to find his way on through, but he'll have a popcorn seat view with regards to this battle for the prime win as they make the way into turn 6 and 7. Further back, Sam Smith here trying to square off versus Liam Silkstone as the iRacing esports driver there decides to bring it into a line coming into turns 4, 5 and 6 behind. He does have fellow prime driver of Lee Horn, so Sam Smith right now the pro in amongst the pro-ams as they make the way through the long right-hander and up towards the chicane. And well for Smith here, he wants to try and make ground, but with the slower class of car here, we've got the Touring Car Racing Club, which works very nicely at this Oschersleben circuit. Overtaking, it's a challenge, but it's not going to be a challenge when Liam Silkstone gets it wrong. Coming out to turn number 10, and will good catch that man from iRacing. That could have been a complete disaster and gone to the wall, but it didn't. And Silkstone there, if he's never played cricket, he might want to consider becoming a fielder, because if he's got skills to catch a car like that, imagine how he could catch a flying ball, because that was an absolutely last minute catch on the steering wheel and very nicely caught there for the iRacing driver. It's cost him dear, it's dropped in 2 places overall and 1 place in the prime class to Lee Horn, but in return what it's also given him is the ability to stay in this race. But as they make the way on around, we can tell you that Andrew Pike has rejoined in the pit lane, and well, with that he's getting himself of course confirmed for what will be on the grid, albeit he'll be right at the back for race number 3, given how it's played on out. But as they make the way on through, well, we do look from Liam Silkstone to a little bit further up the order, and that is to Philip Broberg at the front of this group, this quartet, as they make the way into turn number 3 right now. And Broberg P5 in the prime class, P9 overall. It's been some time since we've seen him inside the top 5 in class, but right now just keeping his head down and pushing on here. And this race really has been a race where a lot of drivers have gained massively with everything that happened on lap number 1, and the biggest gainer is ahead of Broberg. It is this man, Nick Clibbins, after a very tricky race number 1. He's completely inverted it in race number 2, gained 11 places, and now running P4 in the pro class, P8 overall. It's looking to be a better day in the number 13 Honda as he makes his way in towards turn number 11. Now into the right and left he'll come here, and of course trying to close down Alan McCain, who's 1.6 seconds clear, and McCain and Reed-Swap battling for the final spot on the prime podium. And the JW Motorsport driver here, of course, a run onto the podium in race number 1, and he'll want to hold on to this for race number 2. And with P6 he'll be the last driver in the guaranteed reverse grid group, because of course it starts at P6 and makes its way down to P12. As they make the way on towards another lap, heading on to lap number 9 now. 4 more to go, including this one. And Rees-Swap will still have that pressure of McCain behind all the way to the finish, unless McCain makes an error. But as they make the way on through, we can see here Ian Manners chasing after Willis Jonathan Collins as they come out of the final corner. And Will Manners, after running so well for so long in race number 1 and being right up there at the start in race number 2, that incident on lap number 1 cost him dear, but he'll regain 1 place. He makes way out the inside of Collins into turn 1. There's a little bit of contact between the two of them, albeit it's a bit of a door rub, and as they make the way through turn number 2, a bit of latency contact it would seem. Collins holds the position well, and Manners has to try and find his way on through here as we ride on board with the P12 driver in the prime class, trying to make it P11 as they break the way into turn number 3. Now for the pace differential between the two of them, one thing we can say is that Collins definitely knows where to put the car. 4 strong defense as they come up into turn number 4. Into triple left they go, and as they make the way on in here, notice Manners taking a bit of a tighter run into the corner, and Collins, by comparison, not as smooth on the run through 5 into 6, really having difficulty in keeping the car pointing on a single line. But as they make the way out to 7, now up towards McDonald's, this is where for Manners. He's going to need to try and find a way to get the run out of 10, because otherwise he's not going to have much of a run for the remainder of the lap. But he gets a good run, but he takes the grass slightly there with the fact that Collins on the inside of the run. And as they come down towards 11, well, Manners here looking for it. He's got to go in on the brakes or back out. It's 1 or 2, and he backs out as Collins continues to frustrate the 52 Silver Crest Racing driver as they come out of 12 and out towards 13 they go, but Collins covers him off as they make their way through the right-hander, and Collins here really digging in deep. And well, you can understand why he wants to prove that he's not just there to make up the numbers, and he definitely isn't, as they make their way out of 14 and down towards 1, and Manners being made to work for it. But now Manners has got himself alongside. He's got straight line speed in that Veloster, and I think this may be said and done, albeit it's going to be a battle on the brakes. The Honda's strong on the brakes, but can Manners pull some magic here as they make the way in? He's on the inside there. Collins tucks back in, and he can't find it, and therefore Ian Manners does move up into P11 the prime class, P17 overall. But as they come through, we look up to Philip Bruberg here, running P9, 5th place in the prime class, and he's under a huge amount of pressure right now from the pro of Sam Smith, who's got Lee Horn right behind for company, and then also Liam Silkstone as they come down. And Bruberg, they're really parking it on apex, and well, I think Bruberg decided to blunt the pace out of everybody as they make their way through turn 7 and up towards the chicane, because there the Bright Esports driver definitely, I think, a bit heavy on the brakes than perhaps he would like to have been, as they make the way out of turn number 10 and in towards them, but getting the car stops and then everybody following on through. But as they make the way into 11 and 12, a little bit further back of this group, Mark Sykes with a flash of lights there from Bernardo Colbe, trying to say to him, look, I'm coming for you. But the Next Gen Racing Blue driving the 666 machine, I think he'll just be focusing on one thing, and that is bringing the car all the way home to the finish. Meanwhile, speaking of bringing the car home, here is your race leader with 2 laps to go. He's just set the best lap of the race of 33.46. It's Wayne Douglas and Next Gen Racing at yellow Veloster, and well, behind him in at P2 is Mikey Doble, who is some way back here, as we see Doble for NDA Honda Racing making his way up towards turn number 3. Still being chased by Martin Shirley, but the gap has opened up to 7 tenths. I think he will feel a little bit safer now as time trickles on through. Meanwhile, behind them, Joseph Doble continues to lead in the prime class, and whether he can make it 2 out of 2, this will definitely see him potentially jump up into P2 in the prime stands come the end of tonight. But with Matthew Addy right behind him now, the pressure is still on as Alan McCain looks up the inside for P3 in the primes into turn 4, and will Reese Watt leaves the door open. But I think it all started with a poor run out of turn 3 for Watt, and as they make the way through turn number 7, Reese Watt gets ahead as we ride on board the gearbox here of Alan McCain as he makes his way out to 7 and out towards turn number 10. As they come on through the chicane and up towards the right-hander, completing the McDonald's sequence with the iRacing Esports driver here. He's got ahead, but now can he hold it for long? Now, Watt will not have the straight line speed, but what he will have is a very strong set of brakes in that Honda, and also tyre degradation going in his favour with the Elantra. And McCain, of course, really suffering on that front end, those front tyres, feeling the pain of the track temperature as they come on down through 11 and into 12-13. Race leaders on the final lap. We have got the white flag out as I look out my commentary booth window, but meanwhile, McCain here, he's up into P3, and can he get himself onto that podium and stay there? That will be the change on the final lap as he comes on through to take the white flag for himself as they make the way down towards turn number 1. Watt's not close enough here to really contest into the opening corner, so McCain, I think, just needs to keep it on the straight and narrow all the way to the finish. Meanwhile, further back we can see Sam Smith here almost pushing on Philip Bruberg in the run towards turn number 1 in the battle for P9 overall as they come on down. And further back there we can see Daniel Holmer trying to look for the move on Bernardo Colbe as they make their way into 1. It's side by side. Colbe that comes across. We've got a car off, and oh, who on earth has gone off? That's Mark Sykes into the wall. Mark Sykes at the last moment, but Bernardo Colbe holding off Daniel Holmer, and this is what happened to Mark Sykes. Well, coming on through the left hand of the rear of the car, went there under trail braking, and then, well, just the passenger of his car got it stopped as much as he could, but it was a whack to the wall the same, and we return to the live pictures there. A difficult way to wrap up race number 2 for Mark Sykes, but meanwhile, a bit further back, we've got Luke Jones off as well there in similar fashion. We won't be able to bring you a replay of that, however, whereas he returns to the circuit. Here is your race leader of Wayne Douglas, and well, despite the fact that some would argue he had an easy start with Andrew Pike not taking to the grid in the end due to technical difficulties, difficulties. He still had to deliver it lap after lap, and he's been faultless once again. And Next Gen Racing yellow driver will come out the final corner to make it 2 wins out of 2 here in Germany as he crosses the line. Your winner in race 2, overall in the Pro class by 7.4 seconds over Mikey Doble, who crosses the line P2 ahead of Martin Shirley. That completes your Pro and overall podium. And then Joseph Doble makes it back-to-back wins at the German circuit Oschersleben ahead of Matthew Addy, who completes the overall top 5, P2 in the prime class. And it will be Alan McCain, who is the final driver on the prime podium, 3rd in class, 6th overall ahead of Reese Watt and Nick Clibbins there. And then it will be Philip Bruberg, who shortly crosses the line ahead of Lee Horn, Sam Smith and Liam Silkstone as they all cross together P9 through to P12, with then what is, I believe, Bernardo Colway just pipping Daniel Holmer to line for P13, Isaac Doble P15, and then Ian Manners P16, the race that just did not go his way, ahead of Jonathan Collins P17 as he comes on through, and then it will be Jamie Dory in P18 ahead of Luke Jones P19, the last driver to finish on the lead lap, with a last minute retirement for what is Mark Sykes, but he'll be classified P20. Michael Lee's finishing a lap down P21. Adam Delmont the same at P22. And then we had the early retirements of Gavin Gardner and also Andrew Pike. Unfortunately, Andrew Pike not able to turn a single lap due to technical difficulties. But what a brilliant race number 2. And well, for Wayne Douglas here, he's definitely right now making a statement in one of the most critical rounds of the calendar, the penultimate round, that all that pace is there to win. And well, he's looking for that potential top 5 finish in the championship in the Pro class. I think it is definitely coming as he makes his way back to the pit lane. Mikey Doble has already headed on into the pit lane, and well, right now Mikey Doble with that 2nd place has definitely given himself the Pro crown, picked up more than 15 points over the 2 races so far. But Joseph Doble, really the Doble brother right now, who the family will be jumping up and down in joy. Of course, Mikey Doble will have to wait until the end of the season to be officially crowned champion, but for Joseph Doble, 2 wins on the bounce, his first 2 wins, and we're doing everything absolutely right, keeping the pressure of the likes of Matthew Addy and also Alan McCain well at bay. And to keep Matthew Addy behind it is no mean feat, I can tell you that, as they all make their way into the pit lane. As they come on through, also a return to the top 5 for Philip Bruberg, albeit not returning to the pits there on the barrier, but still a good result for him. And Lee Horn as well, not too far behind after a difficult race number 1 for the Next Gen Racing yellow driver, but P10 overall. But let's take a look at those race results subject to any post-stewarding inquiries, and here they are, ladies and gentlemen. So after another 12 laps of racing in race 2 of 3 and round 7 of season 2 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on iRacing here today at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben circuit, Wayne Douglas makes it 2 wins out of 2 overall in the Pro class by almost 7.5 seconds over Mikey Doble, and then Martin Shirley completing the top 3 there for Simtech Racing. Joseph Doble makes it 2 wins out of 2 in the Pro class for NDA Honda Racing in P4 overall ahead of Matthew Addy, the Next Gen Racing yellow driver, having a stronger result in race number 2 compared to 1, and right on the heels of Doble all the way to the line. And then Alan McCain completes the prime podium behind Doble and Addy there by finishing P6 for iRacing Esports, and a great result for him. Reese Watt P7, the JW Motorsport, being pipped to the post via Alan McCain in the last couple of laps, but still he'll take plenty from that race going into race number 3. And then Nick Clibbins, Philip Bruberg and Lee Horn complete your top 10 overall, with Sam Smith best of the rest there in P11. Liam Silkstone P12 missing out on the top 10 overall with that mistake at turn number 10, but I think he'll be grateful for the catch that he caught the car with for Excite Racing. And then Bernardo Colway, Daniel Holmer and Isaac Doble complete the run to 15th place, with Ian Manners, Jonathan Collins and Jamie Dory there in the top 18. But as we continue on down the order, Luke Jones is the final driver to finish on the lead lap, P19 for JW Motorsport, with Mark Sykes P20 for Next Gen Racing Blue, and then also a lap down, much like Sykes, Michael Leese and also Adam Delmont, with Gavin Gardner retiring 6 laps before the finish, and Andrew Pike unfortunately not able to make it due to the grid due to technical issues, and therefore classified as a non-starter and will effectively P24 on the grid for the purposes of race number 3. Well, that's how they finished in race number 2, ladies and gentlemen. And now, just before we take our break for race number 3, it's time for the reverse grid draw. So as we cut to the commentary booth here, ladies and gentlemen, of course, just to remind you, in front of me, we do have the official NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl. And within here are the numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12. Of course, 10 is excluded because it was drawn last time out at Watkins Glen International. And I will very shortly be closing my eyes, giving our lottery balls a quick shuffle, and then pulling one out of the lottery bowl. And of course, this lottery bowl provided by the wonderful folks at Sam Cases UK. If you're looking for a professional flight case as part of your working career, whether you're traveling abroad with heavy equipment, or alternatively just looking for something at home that's industrial caliber, then Sam Cases UK, who designed this lottery bowl and put it all together, are the people to go to for the ultimate flight case experience. But with that, it's time for us to do the lottery draw. So that is the shuffle, and now we will draw the number from the bowl. And our number, ladies and gentlemen, for today is the number 7. It will be 7th place that takes pole position on the reverse grid, and that means we are in for a thriller, ladies and gentlemen. It will be Reese Watt in the Prime class who takes pole, but keep in mind he finished 4th in the Prime class in race number 2. And that means your front 2 rows will consist of Reese Watt and Alan McCain, followed by Matthew Addy and Joseph Doble. This is going to be one not to miss, and you will not want to miss the start of it. There's no question about it. We'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time for the build up to race number 3. But until then, don't go anywhere because there's plenty more racing action to come. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to race 3 of 3 tonight, our third and final 12-lap race at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben circuit in the Berde region of Germany. And what two absolutely brilliant races we have kicked off with today, and we are concluding it as the sun starts to move towards setting in the distance. And for our drivers, it's not more important than ever to be able to pick up those all-important points, with this being the penultimate round and only one more round to go, 3 more races after today. But as our drivers get themselves set, well, we do look, of course, to our primes, who really are the focus of the attention right now, given the fact that with a reverse grid top 7 as drawn from our lottery bowl here in the commentary booth, and with 4 of our prime drivers occupying the finishing positions of 4th through to 7th at the end of race number 2, we are going to be seeing our 4 main contenders in the Prime Championship duking it out from the front 2 rows. We have never seen that in the NXTCC's history to date, and this is going to be an absolute joy to witness and behold, for the simple reason it really could be the race that it all comes down to, even though we have 3 races to go. And also on top of that, given how tight it is here at the German circuit, one would imagine that if the 4 of them battle hard enough, the pros behind, even with the very capable Mikey Doble and the fast and flying Wayne Douglas, will they actually be able to find a way through to take the overall win? Or could we also be seeing our first overall Pro-Am winner in the series? Well, unfortunately, unlike Matt Neal at Donington Park all the way back in the 90s, we do not have a £250,000 prize pool to award to what would be a driver of an alternative class taking home the overall win. Of course, Matt Neal as an independent back then taking the overall win, the first driver to do so as an independent in the official BTCC era of touring car in the UK. But still, it is that accolade to put yourself as the first name in the history books to be the prime who takes an overall win, and that will be the thing that waits our drivers. Could it be Alan McCain? Could it be this man, Joseph Doble? Alternatively, could it be Matthew Addy? Or could it be Reese Watt, the driver who will be starting on pole, of course, for JW Motorsport as he makes his way on down here? And will everybody get themselves set right now and just focusing on clocking the laps in and making sure that they're mentally prepared? And well, we are not going to be bringing you any interviews with our drivers before we go into race number 3, but what we can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there was a bit of a strange incident that we saw with regards to Gavin Garner's car going around at the turn 11 at 12 sequence in race number 2. We've had confirmation down in the pit lane from Gavin himself that there was contact that we didn't actually witness between himself and another driver on the broadcast, which caused the suspension to collapse in the run through turn 11 and 12. It was an initial knock into turn number 11. The car looked fine, and then suddenly the suspension completely gave way, and well, it must have been a nasty knock at that, because that's what led to Gardner going on around. But the fact that he's been able to get the car repaired, he's all back to normal now, and we're waiting to see how he gets. So indeed, all the drivers get on, but it is going to be a lot harder. But the one driver right now who you've got to feel for, who really has suffered commentators' curse tonight, Andrew Pike, of course, line up P2 on the grid for race number 2, only to find a technical issue prevented him from going away at the lights, and we were absolutely stunned to silence by that. So much so, the lights went out in silence, and then we went racing. But the number 99 driver, we started from the very back of the field from P24, and how far can he climb over the course of 12 laps here, given the limited overtaking opportunities? Or really, we should rephrase it as you need to have a huge advantage and pressure your opponent into a mistake to be able to create those overtaking opportunities. Well, Pike's not going to give in, that's certain. He wouldn't be coming back to the circuit if he was a quitter. He is a man who is determined to drive and fly high for the Sim Racing Collective, and with 30 seconds to go, you can imagine they'll be saying to use all the engine modes on the car, give it everything, do not hold anything back, because right now the 99 driver has got nothing to lose. But as we also look to Ian Manners here making his way on through turns 11 and 12, a difficult race for the 52 Zilla with Crest Racing driver. Didn't quite work out for him given the early incident, but he'll be coming on through the field as quickly as he possibly can and looking to pick up places as well. So there's plenty of drivers to watch out for trying to make charges through the field. And then of course we do have the big star setting of the 4 primes on the front 2 rows, with the checker flag coming out on this final practice session, the warm up to race number 3, while our drivers will be taken back to the pit lane, and then we'll be heading to the grid. Let's get ready to race. So as our drivers get ready to go onto the grid, this is how they line up for the final time today. Reverse grid pole goes to JW Motorsports Reese Watt, joined by fellow Pro-Am driver on the front row, Alan McCain from iRacing Esports. We then have the two primes of Matthew Addy from NXTGEN Racing Yellow and Joseph Doble from NDA Honda Racing. But when you finally get your first pro on row number 3, and that's SimTech Racing's Martin Shirley. We then have the Mikey Doble, NDA Honda Racing driver P6, and on the fourth row it's the pair of Wayne Douglas from NXTGEN Racing Yellow and Nick Clemens from iRacing Esports. Philip Bruberg and Lee Horn complete the top 10 there on row number 5, with Sam Smith and Liam Silkstone on the 6th row there with the Excite Racing driver, hoping to have a little bit more of a less intense race with regards to instance. Then on row number 7 it's Bernardo Colbe and Daniel Holmer, with Isaac Doe and Ian Manners behind on row 8, Jonathan Collins and Jamie Dory on the 9th row, and Luke Jones and Mark Sykes complete the top 20 before Michael Lees and Adam Delmont take us for the 11th row. And our final row is occupied by the two retirees of race 2, Gavin Gardner and Andrew Pike. But as we get ready to go, the grid is set, the lights are ready, let's count them down. It's 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights.
Green, green, green.
And it's the lights out and away we go for the final race of the day as it becomes the charge of the primes down towards turn number 1. Reese Watt gets a good start, but meanwhile Alan McCain immediately now picking up speed in the Elantra as they head on down to the braking zone. Matthew Addy looks down the outside, meanwhile Joseph Doble plays it safe. McCain goes up the inside, they'll put him on the outside into the next corner. They come on through and McCain seems to have got it, but as Reese Watt comes back here, it's going to be side by side all the way through. Meanwhile behind Shirley battling with Wayne Douglas there, with Mikey Doble falling a little bit back behind Douglas as they come on through. There's contact there between Shirley, and it takes Mikey Doble to the wall in the background as they make their way into the braking zone for turn number 3, and Mikey Doble's pointing the wrong way, but meanwhile Ian Manners going 3 wide with Michael Lees and also Jonathan Collins, and Collins goes a bit deep there as a result as they make the way into turn number 4, into the triple left. They go for the first time of asking, and who's going to back out will be the big question as they come charging on through. Well, it looks here we've still got a couple of two ways. Jonathan Collins down the apex curve of 5, clattering over it and losing places, but meanwhile we've also got Ian Manners to the wall there. We'll have to try and find out what exactly's happened to Ian Manners. That's not worked out at all for the 52 Zilla driver, but meanwhile up front he's fended off the charge of Alan McCain, and Reese Watt continues to lead as they make their way down towards turn number 11. Now as they head on down, you can see Matthew Addy not wasting any time and trying to get onto the back of McCain. I think he feels though now that McCain's had his turn charging after the leader, now it's his turn to go hunting after him as well. And as they make their way up towards turn number 13, Joseph Doble right there. This top 4 all within a second of one another as they make their way into the final corner. They've still got plenty of laps to go, and look behind, you can see that Wayne Douglas takes a dive to the inside, and well, quite aggressive move there for Wayne Douglas, as meanwhile Nick Clemens says well too can play at that game, and he goes on through and takes the lead of the pro class. But after one lap it is Reese Watt who leads ahead of McCain, followed by Addy, then Doble. Those are primes. Then you have your pro of Clemens followed by Wayne Douglas, and then it's Wayne Douglas's teammate, well not his teammate, my apologies, rival there of what is Sam Smith. But meanwhile Lee Horn comes on through the pair of them with everything that happened at the final corner and takes the position for P6, P5 in the Pro-Am class as they make the way up towards turn 3. So in fact now it's Nick Clemens, your pro leader, ahead of Lee Horn, followed by Wayne Douglas P7, and then it's Sam Smith and Martin Shirley P9, and then completing the top 10 is Philip Bruberg with best of rest behind him with Bernardo Colbe. But there's still more to come here, as you can see, going on around Lee Horn after Lee Horn gets a poor run out of turn 3. Wayne Douglas and also Sam Smith, and then Lee Horn battling side by side there. Martin Shirley, and Shirley holds on before trying to go round the inside to outside line, and Horn in return defending as they make their way through turn number 7. They come roaring on through, and what I can see that on the timer at the top, this race right now listed as a 30-minute race, and I wonder if there's been a little bit of a mistake with regards to the number of laps set. We'll try and get that clarified where we can, or as our timing tower just decided to play a bit of an error. In fact, that's an error on our timings. It is 12 laps. We apologise for that. That's been corrected immediately. But meanwhile, what we don't apologise for is this battle here between Shirley and Horn as they make their way into 11. Horn holds it outside to inside and fends off the charge of the pro driver here, and the pro right now going all in and battling hard as they make their way into turn 13 and 14. But as they come on down into the final corner, there's a mistake, and meanwhile that is, I believe, going horribly wrong. Philip Bruberg all the way across the circuit and stops just short of the wall, and well, their mistake coming out of 13 has cost him very dearly as our cameraman didn't know which way to turn. But meanwhile as they make their way down towards turn number 1, Excite Racing's Adam Delmont here trying to pick his way through the field. He's gained 6 places so far after a difficult race number 2, but you can see that behind Gavin Gardner battling with Liam Silkstone, taking a bit of grass with him, but stable there, and Silkstone on to the apex curve of 1, and he loses it, and it's a whack to the wall for the Excite Racing driver. But meanwhile As we look to Jonathan Collins here, who picks up the places, and much like Mark Sykes behind, well, it's drama everywhere you look at the moment in the field. But as we look up towards Bernardo Colbe, running in P10, the last of the top 10 overall runners right now, he's had to try and fend off Jamie Dory, who looks to go round the outside into triple left at 4.56. Can't find it as the Kemi Tool car makes its way in position into turn number 7. Under braking here, Dory once again looks round the outside but goes overly deep, and that opens up the door to Isaac Doble, who's not quite able to find the space to play the move out. But as they make the way into the McDonald chicane here, they all form up in a line, but there's Daniel Holmer, who I believe there a bit of contact from the rear from Michael Lees, just goes slightly off and rejoins, but he won't be too pleased with that with the Bright Esports drivers. He drops all the way down from P13 down to P17, all behind pro drivers as well. So this is a double whammy in terms of places. He's lost overall and in class, and now he's gone all the way from P6 in class to P10 with still plenty of time to go. But given how close it's been between himself, Garner, Delmont, Pike and Lease all evening, he's got a lot of effort to put in if he wants to find those places. And Andrew Pike to give you an update on our Sim Racing Collective driver here in the number 99 Elantra. He's gained 10 places since the start from P24, he's up to P14, and he's trying to now get into P6 in the pro class by attacking Michael Lease in the run down towards turn number 1, but he can't find it. Meanwhile, Bernardo Colbe defended versus Jamie Dory, and well, it looks as though that Colbe gets it wrong under braking, and into the wall, into turn number 2's tyre barrier he goes, and not a moment for Bernardo Colbe, as meanwhile Mark Sykes here for NXTGEN Racing Blue trying to pick a place on Jonathan Collins, his teammate, as they make the way out the long right-hander at turn number 2. But it's definitely right now really up in terms of the ante and the number of moments between drivers here, and I wonder if they'll be told to calm it down. But as they make the way into turn number 3, Sark's right now backing off and looking for the move later on in the lap. As we look at this long string of 5 pros together, we're in the battle for P12 overall, P6 in class. We also have to look at the top 4 right now. That continues to be the 4 pro-ams of Watt ahead of McCain and Addy and Doble. And do keep in mind, of course, no pro-am has won a race overall in the history of the NXTCC to date. So right now, one of these 4 drivers will make history today as they come down, and this will be a critical result, whoever picks up the win in their championship campaign in the pro-am class, given all 4 of these drivers could be the winners by the end of it. And right now, Reese Watt really needs a big result. He's had 2 good results today, but a win would put him right back on the run of form going into the season finale. But as they make the way through the final corner and onto lap number 5, Nick Clemens there is now starting to encroach upon the primes, and how will he thread his way in between them? Will he weave himself in an interfering pattern into the mix of them and find a way to stay clear of Wayne Douglas, who is showing no signs of slowing down behind? But meanwhile, whilst we do have a breather, we have an opportunity to take a look back at what exactly happened on that opening lap. Well, this was the instant earlier on the open lap, so it was turns 4 through to 6. You can see Daniel Holman there takes to the grass, and well, Ian Manners on the grass there, a small mistake, but it cost him very dear, and into the wall. Meanwhile, what happened to Liam Silkstone a little bit later on in the lap was he came through the chicane. It looked absolutely fine initially, and well, there was his teammate Michael Lee's behind. I believe it may have happened in the run into the chicane only moments ago as they made the way on down in the lap as they came down towards turns 11 and 12, coming up through, and well, not into this. It must be at the very final corner, but you can see that in the rear of the picture, contact between Delmont and also one Sim Racing Collective cars, and Silverstone just goes a little bit deep there but returns. But returning to the live pictures, we'll also take a look back at what happened at the very start of the lap between Mikey Doble and Wayne Douglas, and it was a big shunt for Mikey Doble. So this was right at the start as they made the way out of the corner and riding on board. Mikey Doble there, and Wayne Douglas comes across, and boy, it sends Mikey Doble right to the barrier, and the car pointed in the wrong direction. Well, I think that's going to be a difficult one to pass off for the stewards, other than I think Wayne Douglas will be considered to be the driver at fault. But again, that's for the stewards if it's reported post-race. That's not for us in the commentary booth. But as we see our drivers here on the live pictures right now making their way down towards turn number 1 for the 6th time of asking, you see Nick Clemens under pressure from Wayne Douglas, gets his elbows out, Clemens turns in, and Douglas is turned on around by Clemens there. But I think both drivers there not wanting to give any quarter, and I wonder if Clemens has said, right, enough's enough. If it's not going to work out for one of us, then both of us are going to end up in the wars. But I think they might both be taken to the stewards room there, given the fact they've had that coming together. And the number 13 driver, well, right now leading the Pro class by 1.8 seconds, and on circuit, well, I think he'll feel as though the win's coming his way, but I wonder if there's a story after today. But as they make the way into turns 4, 5 and 6 right now, we can see here Martin Shirley from Simtech Racing trying to put pressure on Sam Smith, Clippers' teammate, in the hunt for a higher position on the Pro podium as they make the way through turn number 7 here. The Simtech Racing driver third place in Pro class right now and happily pushing along, but I think he wants that P2. He's always wanted a bit more in terms of points and positions over this championship. As they make the way on out, we look to Daniel Holmer here, heading up through the chicane and, well, getting past there. Gavin Gardner, side by side they entered, and Holmer on the inside gets it done as Gardner tucks in behind, but these two separating quite consistently with regards to the lap time, and now they've been separated considerably from the drivers in front, and that is Isaac Doble there, the Pro driver, being swarmed by the pros of Michael Lees, who's ahead for iRacing, and Andrew Piker's trying to find his way around the outside into 13. Can't quite find it at the moment, and the Pro driver here definitely right now up against it, with the pros all trying to pick the way on through. And for Isaac Doble, to be fair to him, he may as well go for battling this for the simple reason that he's got a long way to go to the next Pro driver behind him, Jonathan Collins, and also he's got a sizable disadvantage to Lee Horn in front. So therefore, I think he's a little bit experienced here for Isaac Doble in terms of where he can put the car and where he can't put the car, as he continues to hold Andrew Pike at bay. But as they make the way through turn number 2 and up towards 3, Pike gets very close to corner exit here. I think it's a question of when, not if, that Pike will look for the move in the run towards turn number 3. But as Doble parks it there on the inside line, puts it nice and tight, rolls his way on through. Well, we do look from them up towards our leaders right now, and here are your overall and your prime leaders with it, and it's Reese Watt for JW Motorsport, who is still ahead by a margin of 0.8 of a second over Alan McCain, with Matthew Addy and then Joseph Doble behind. And well, right now Joseph Doble with Mikey Doble having that retirement on the opening lap, really the highest flying member of the Doble family right now, is trying to do everything he can in order to make it another win. But I think he's really going to have to go some. We are at the halfway stage of this race. We are starting to encroach into that second half, and he's still got 3 cars between him and making it another win as they make the way on towards turn number 13. And Nick Clemens, well, after the contact with Wayne Douglas, stays there with the top 4, and I think Clemens at this point in time just focusing on consolidating those laps and consolidating the victory. Certainly on track, but whether it's then resolved and discussed in the stewards booth afterwards, well, we hope not to have that happen, but given the calibre of the incident, it may just go that way. But as they make the way down towards turn number 1, Sam Smith meanwhile keeping Martin Shirley at bay as they head on down into the opening left-right sequence. We can see now the rest of the field opening up a little bit. It is the top 4 that really are our closest drivers together as we ride on board with Joseph Doble. Now making his way out of 2 and up towards 3. Of course, we've seen it over the course of the first 2 races. The Honda having very little on the straight compared to the rest of its peers. It's all got to be done in the corners and on the brakes, but even then, late on in the race, as we saw in race number 2, the Honda's brakes do seem to really start to suffer in the trail braking zones, given that extra weight on the success balance. But Doble right now staying comfortably close to the back of Addy. But these 4, of course, they make the way on through. Well, Addy goes a little bit deep. Doble thinks about it. I think he tries to open the door up. It's going to be side by side in the run in towards the chicane. Now who's going to back out? They go too wide. Addy's made to go through the bollards then, and maybe a slowdown that comes with it. But Joseph Doble does get ahead as Addy goes wide there. But Addy not wanting to give in. Now, did Doble really have to force the move on? That's the question. Well, I think he decided it's the only time he's going to get an opportunity was when the door was a little bit open, and Addy once again finding the drivers around him wanting to get their elbows out as they make the way in towards 13. Clemens now closed up behind with teammate Sam Smith only 1.2 seconds up, so this is going to start to push them back towards the pros who are hunting after their respective winning class behind. But as the pros make the way on to now lap number 9, we've still got another 5 laps to go here, and anything can happen as we hear that Isaac Doble's had a major off track, and I believe he's missing a wheel at the back of the car. Well, in fact, 2 wheels look absolutely pointing off centre, and what exactly happened to Isaac Doble, we should say? Was he made his way down into turn 11, car let go under braking, and then we became a passenger in the car, went over the high curb at turn number 12 and straight into the wall. Was returned to the live pictures now, where it's gone very, very wrong for Isaac Doble, and now only one member of the Doble family out on the circuit. Meanwhile, Daniel Holmer and Michael Lees will be returned to them battling for P11 behind Andrew Pike, and Pike has just passed Michael Lees. We'll take a look back at that very shortly, what's kicked off this chain of events. But right now, both Homer and Lees definitely showing one other no quarter. I don't know what was in those half-time drinks. Our drivers made the way out of their cars in race 2 and got into the cars ahead of race number 3. But whatever they've been given, I can tell you right now, they've definitely set the intensity to 11, because as we can see, Homer all over the back of Lees. He's not giving any quarter as we ride on board here with the Bright Esports Elantra driver coming through turn number 10. But tempers are starting to fly. Some drivers are seeing red, and with it now, could we see a massive bit of drama unfold right at the end as they make the way towards the end of the runnings here at Oschersleben? Well, as we see Homer here staying close to Lees, and Lees out of sorts coming out of 11, but collects it back together on the exit at 12. We're into 13 they go, and Homer here definitely itching for a move as they make the way into the braking zone for 14. On the anchors they go, and Lees really struggling to keep that car set and stable in a line right now, and Homer's so close, and in fact they've been boxed in a little bit in the run down towards turn number 1. Homer pulls across the limit trying to give himself space, and there's contact between the two of them, and well, now that, I think there, well, we rode on board and looked at the steering, but I think Homer there I think he would argue that he was being crowded over to the outside. We didn't quite see how much space he had on the other side of the car, but I think Lees will not be too happy with that, and definitely I think our drivers might all be told universally, you need to calm it down before the season finale, because here we have seen quite a few drivers really now start to get their elbows out and go a little bit too far, and it's now starting to be more than elbows in faces or doors, as we see here Homer carrying on into turn number 4. But as they make the way on through it, meanwhile Matthew Addy, well, he's dropped a long way down. What's happened to Matthew Addy, in fact, we're not quite sure. We will get a replay of it very shortly, but he's dropped behind Lee Horn, and in fact he is a whole 1.5 seconds off of Lee Horn, so whatever's happened has been disastrous. And here's the replay. Was in the run to turn number 1. He just lost the rear under, braking into one, carrying so much speed, but got the car stopped in time, so it was a near miss for Addy compared to what it could have been, but that's not the way he's wanted it to go, and that will definitely frustrate his aspirations of really putting the championship almost to bed come the end of tonight and making life easy for himself in the season finale. But meanwhile, speaking of one driver who also they're battling with Alan McCain as they made their way out the final corner up the inside, and in the end McCain having to take to the gravel. Joseph Doble now moves up into P2 for NDA Honda Racing with 1 second and 2 laps between him and a potential win, but to win he needs to pass this man Reese Watts, who right now, well, after a difficult race number 1, a better race number 2, and now a race number 3 where he's giving it everything he can, the JW Motorsport driver here, if he can keep clear of trouble, may just make history in the NXTCC by being our first prime overall winner. And as he makes his way out of 3 and up towards the triple F of 4, 5, 6, he can't afford any mistakes from this point onwards. Mistakes will be costly. He'll find himself back in the battle, and given the intensity, the fire that so many drivers are showing in this race 3, I don't think anybody right now wants to get caught up in a battle of fast charger behind. But meanwhile, we do look to Andrew Pike, who's trying to find his way past Matthew Addy, but the pro driver right now, P5 in class. This has been a great recovery already for Andrew Pike. 14 places gained, moving all the way up into P5 in the pro class. He'll want more, of course, but how long has he got, and how much can he extract out of the Elantra now as we head towards the end of the day? When he gets the run out of turn number 10, he's going to look up the inside of Matthew Addy, and what Addy, of course, won't want to let him through, because he'll want to hunt down Lee Horn. They come into the right-hander. Both drivers, they give one over space, but Pike has to back out, and they're not fully alongside, and decides that caution's the better part of intimidation as they make the way through turn number 13 into 14, and as they make the way into that final corner right now, Pike has to think about it again very shortly as they head onto the final lap. But as they charge them through onto lap 12 of 12, here are your pro leaders. Nick Clemens leads the way, but Sam Smith, his teammate right now, under colossal pressure. Smith on the inside in the run to turn number 1. Shirley on the outside, cuts him back, trying to go round the outside again into turn number 2, but look who's caught up to the pair of them to try and get himself onto the pro podium. It's NDA Honda Race's Jamie Dory as they make their way up towards turn number 3, and meanwhile in the lead of this race there is Reese Watt, and look who's close behind him right now, separated by only 2.5 tenths. It's Joseph Doble who's looking to make it 3 out of 3 as we ride on board here, the rear of the JW Motorsport Honda as it comes through the triple left of 5 and 6 into 7 they go, and as they do, what goes a little bit deep, but Doble can't put the move on like he did at Addy last few laps ago, and as they make the way out to 7 and up towards McDonald's right now, what just needs to nail the exit at 10, and after that it really becomes just a sequence of corners. He gets it hooked up well there. Doble within 2 tenths right now. He'll gain a tenth in the run down towards 11, but what covers off the inside line there? Doble thinks about it, but he doesn't go for it. He's not close enough, and as they come on down through 11 and into 12, the JW Motorsport driver here is separated by 2 corners to make history in the series. He comes into turn number 13. It's straightforward enough. Joseph Doble's not close enough. He comes down to turn number 14. Doble's not near enough to look for the move. And as he makes his way out of the final corner, he'll be the first prime to win overall in the NXTCC's history. Reese Watford, JW Motorsports, takes the overall and the prime win by 2.5 tenths over Joseph Doble. And it'll be Alan McCain P3 ahead of Nick Clemens P4, who is your pro winner there, and it'll be Sam Smith P5, Martin Shirley P6, and then Jamie Dory at P7, who comes on through just off of the pro podium. Lee Horn P8, followed by Matthew Addy P9, and then Andrew Pike P10, ahead of Daniel Homer P11, Gavin Garner P12, and then Adam Delmont P13. Jonathan Collins will shortly come on through the Next Gen Racing Blue to take P14, P6 in the prime class as he makes his way through the final corner here in definitely what has been an evening of positives for Collins, with some great results over the course of today as he comes across the line in the 1-2-3 car. And then it will be Michael Lees, who, after being knocked about in that contact with Daniel Holmer, I think there's a bit more to that than it just being concluded on the circuit here today. But as the Excite Racing driver comes on down, definitely a frustrating end to his racing, makes his way out the final corner, the car snapping on him, and well, that's very unfortunate for the Excite Racing drivers. I think Philip Bruberg will come on through to take P15 off him right at the finish here as he makes his way to the line. So it'll be P15 for Philip Bruberg, Michael Lees P16 as he comes across the line very shortly, and then it will be Ian Manners and where's Isaac Doble, the last 2 finishers on the lead lap. But meanwhile, as we do look here to Reese Watt, well, what a way it's been today. And as the drivers come on past him there, you can imagine, I think Reese Watt will be absolutely pumped inside that JW Motorsport machine. And I think all the drivers that are coming past are congratulating him on being the first prime to take an overall win as he makes his way in towards the pit lane very shortly. But also to Joseph Doble, he gave it everything, and 2 wins out of 3 in the second place. Well, that is a huge set of points for the Hyundai Honda Racing driver. Alan McCain, also a regular feature on the prime podium today. That means he will close the gap to Matthew Addy, and well, for Matthew Addy, it has not been a successful way to set himself up for the season finale. He's gained some good points, but still he's got a lot of pressure on him going into season finale as the championship leader. He will still have an advantage of approximately 25 to 30 points, doing a bit of quick mental maths, but he will have wanted more, because otherwise now the door is open for him to have it swept underneath him, the carpet, we should say, swept from underneath him right at the end. But speaking of the end, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the racing action here today, and let's bring you up those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. I suspect there may be a few. So in race 3 of 3 in round 7 of season 2 of the NXTCC here today at the Oschersleben circuit in Germany, hosted on iRacing, Reese Watt, your overall and pro-am winner there for JW Motorsport, 3 tenths clear in the end of Joseph Doble in P2 for NDA Honda Racing. And then iRacing Esports is Alan McCain, P3. It's 3 primes who take the overall podium. That's never happened before in the NXTCC, but the magic has happened today, and that is the prime podium at the very top. Nick Clemens, your pro winner there for iRace Esports. It is a triplet of iRace Esports cars that complete the top 5, but Nick Clemens, your pro winner by a margin there of what is 1.8 seconds over Sam Smith, and then Martin Shirley P6 there to complete the pro podium. The Simtech Racing driver there chasing it down all the way to the finish, but not quite able to get Smith at the finish line. Jamie Dory P7 for NDA Honda Racing, followed up by Lee Horn there, and then Matthew Addy and Andrew Pike completing the top 10. Best of the rest, Daniel Homer in P11, with Gavin Gardner from Verano Motorsport there having a good run and able to find his way up through the field, much like Andrew Pike, but not able to get himself into the top 10 at the finish. Adam Delmont P13, ahead of Jonathan Collins and Philip Bruberg, who complete the run for the top 15. And as we look further down, Michael Lees there, the first driver to finish a lap down with Philip Bruberg P15. I believe Michael Lees being towed to the pitch just before crossing the finish line. So Philip Bruberg, the 15th and final finisher on that lead lap. Michael Lees P16 for Excite Racing, ahead of Ian Manners and Isaac Doble. And then drivers who finished more than 1 lap down, Mark Sykes P19 ahead of Wayne Douglas. And then Bernardo Colbe, Liam Silkstone, Luke Jones, Jones and Mikey Doble completing the standings there. And a very unfortunate race for Mikey Doble, being turned around right on the exit of turn number 2 at the start. And we can understand why, a bit frustrated at that. Not the way he wanted to end today, and definitely not the way he wanted to see in his effective championship crown, which will be awarded to him at the end of what is the season finale in a week's time. But with that, of course, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the racing concluded, but we still have time for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. We'll be back in approximately 10 minutes for our interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews with our selected drivers. Now today, we have 3 of our primes, 3 of the championship battling drivers, hand battle from start to finish of the season, but really now finding their way right at the tip of the spear when it comes to battling for that prime championship crown. But we'll start off by hearing from Joseph Doble, and many would call our driver of the day. Indeed, speaking to our independent steward, he's also mentioned to me that Joseph Doble for him would be the driver of the day, and understandable, with 2 wins on the bouncing class, also 2 P4s overall, and then a 2nd place in the final race today. Not quite able to make it a triplet, but still a phenomenal run. And well, we'll also be hearing from what is, and I believe there we do have just a couple of classes in error. Those will get very fixed very quickly, but we'll also be hearing from the primes of Reese Watt and Alan McCain, but not before we hear from our pro driver and of course pro champion effectively as of today of Mikey Doble. But let's start off by hearing from Joseph Doble himself as he joins me in the interview room. Joseph, good evening to you, and what a good evening it has been from start to finish today. Not just picking up your first win in the NXTCC, but also your first 2 wins and vying and battling for an overall win right at the finish. Not quite able to make it a triplet of wins today, but still, surely you've got to be absolutely proud given your performances at Oschersleben.
Yeah, no, I mean, I I've done really well, to be honest, to what I thought. Um, Usually I'm quite inconsistent with my driving, but managed to keep it on the track and turned out a decent pace and managed to get through a few.
Well, indeed, and that consistency really showing through today. And let's start off with qualifying. You looked, I must say, absolutely unstoppable in qualifying in your class. Throughout, you were constantly setting laps that were worth overall top 5 positions. Do you just feel as though it was going perfectly right today, or is this your favourite circuit? Just take us through qualifying, because it was just so strong.
I don't even know, to be honest. I mean, so I did the same sort of procedure as I did at all the other tracks, practice-wise, and I don't know, just got to grips with it quicker and managed to find the quick little fine time, I suppose, and sort of managed to piece together a lap that allowed me to be on the knock on the doors of the top 3, 4, 5.
When piecing the lap together, and definitely a lap that stood the test of time with regards to your Pro-Am peers, with yourself having 4 places on the grid ahead of next driver of what was Matthew Addy. Going into the race number 1 itself then, what was your focus of race 1, given the fact you had such an advantage, arguably in terms of track placement and also 1 lap pace? Was it just to see how you threaded in amongst the pros? Was it constantly keep an eye on what's happening further behind in the prams? What was race 1 about to you?
To be honest, I mean, although it's logical to think Pro-Am when you're going around points-wise, but I just like to be, I don't know, see everyone the same and battle with anyone, you know. I just want overall positions, I feel, just to me, is just as good of achievement as Pro-Ams, whether it's Pro-Am close behind me or a few spots back. I still enjoy the racing just as much, and I just get the best result I can no matter what.
Oh, indeed, and battling with the pros around you, of course, keeping them honest as well, we must say, albeit we did have a bit of a runaway leader, but the driver you kept honest most, perhaps, was your brother, Mikey Doble. It must make you feel proud of the fact that, of course, Mikey really has stolen the spotlight in the pro class, and indeed, effective championship winner come the end of tonight with the points he's been able to accrue, but being able to stay right behind him for 12 laps in race number 1 is no mean feat.
Yeah, I think even he was surprised with my pace. Before tonight, he was asking me tips on how to get quicker in the first sector because he lost a bit of time to me, which was quite funny. I've never heard that before. But no, I was, happy to stay with him. Keeps me happy, and I suppose makes him, I don't know, keeps me happy, and he's got someone to watch out for now.
Oh, indeed. And just take us through your feelings when you crossed that finish line, took your first checkered flag as winner in the Pro-Am class, that P4 overall at the end of the first race.
Yeah, that was nervy, to be honest, because I had I think Martin Shirley behind me, creeping up at 10th by 10th. And I thought one error now and he's going to be on my back, you know, battling hard. So had to just keep it tidy, not make many mistakes, and just when I went over the line, it was relieving, that's for sure.
Indeed, and it's absolutely brilliant to see you take first checker flag in class, but then winding forward to race number 2, of course, it looked as though it was more of the same in terms of a faultless start, trying to get the run on your brother into turn at number 1, but also having to look out for Martin Shirley, who was trying to make the move on you. Was it a case now that you'd sort of find yourself up in race 1 and felt as though, okay, I know what I'm dealing with here, let's go a little bit more on the fight?
Yeah, race 1, I sort of was happy to be up there. You know, because it's new to me being up that far. I was happy to be there, but then race 2, I knew what was around me pace-wise, who I could keep up with, who I was quicker than. So it meant I could go for more, not risky, but more, you know, tempting moves. I could go for them and know that I'll be able to stay ahead of them instead of, you know, keep flip-flopping positions, if you like.
Oh, understandable, but as the race went on, we of course saw a number of your Pro-Am rivals in the championship. Of course, championship leader going into tonight, Matthew Addy, also Alan McCain, who was P2 going in tonight. Both of them crept up, and Reese Watt as well getting in the mix as well. Were you starting to raise an eyebrow and think, hold on, how are they getting close to me given the pace you showed in race 1?
Yeah, sort of. To be fair, they're all quick drivers themselves, so I wasn't surprised to see them up there. Yeah, I just had to do as best I could, no matter who was around me, and fair play to them to be able to be up the same end, be up the sharp end, and didn't surprise me at all, to be honest.
Well, you fended off Matthew Addy all the way to the finish of race number 2 to make it 2 wins out of 2. And then we drew from the reverse grid lottery bowl P7, which meant the front 2 rows would be locked out by Pro-Am drivers. We were at the back of the quartet. What were your thoughts when you heard P7 had been drawn?
I wasn't too disappointed or too happy, I suppose. I mean, I started, I think, P3 or 4. Which meant it was the same sort of place as I finished anyway, so I couldn't have really any complaints. And yeah, I just went for it in race 3, the same as I did in the other 2, and came out well off.
Oh, indeed. And in race number 3, of course, battling this time with drivers in your championship battle and having to really try and make the move on Matthew Addy in the end into turn number 7. It looked very tight around there, but the door was slightly open and you decided, all right, it's time to put a foot in.
Yeah, he slightly saw him go slightly sideways, bit of puff of smoke, and I thought he rarely makes any errors, so that one he did make, I had to try and capitalise on it and basically just floored it into that position and managed to get myself through.
And from that point onwards, after passing one of your key rivals in the championship, trying to chase down fellow drivers of what were in the end of Alan McCain and Reese Watt, and finding your way past McCain, but Reese Watt just seemed to be a little bit too far out your reach.
Yeah, he was slightly up the road. I didn't have long to try and catch him and get by him, but he kept it tidy for as long, you know, he kept it tidy, didn't make any mistakes, and fair play to him. Deserves the win.
Now, with the results you picked up today, with the 2 wins and a 2nd place, this firmly puts you right there in contention for the chance at the championship at Interlagos in a week's time. Before we ask your thoughts on Interlagos, given how far you've come over the course of this season, at the start of the season, competing to be just off of the top 5 in the Pro-Am class, then making your way into the top 5, and now really in the last 3 rounds being up there, claiming podiums, claiming your own maiden win, and challenging for the championship title. Just what is your thoughts or reflection on how your championship campaign's gone so far?
Yeah, I think I had a bit of a wobbly start. I was new to. I just built my simulator about 4 days before the season started, so I was new to it all. You know, getting to grips with it. So I suppose my driving as a whole was improved throughout the season, and yeah, I'm only going up, and happy to be in with a shout going into the last round.
Well, it's been absolutely phenomenal to see how your season has developed, and really, as we're just saying on the broadcast when we're speaking to our independent race director, they mentioned how you have been the driver of the day with the performances and really one of the drivers of the season so far. But with the season having one more round to go, Interlagos lies in wait at Brazil in a week's time. What are your thoughts for the championship at drama-filled circuit?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's one for, I think you could pick up a good slipstream around there, so quite a wide track as well, so plenty of overtaking. Should be a thrilling last 3 races.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing how you get on in the season finale. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, mum and dad downstairs watching the stream. Any other family watching at home? I'm sure my grandparents are watching, shouting at the TV. But yeah, that's it. And thanks to you for commentating. And yeah.
Well, Joseph, it's been a pleasure to have you in the interview room. Congratulations once again on your first 2 wins in your NXTCC career, and also on making it a triplet of podium stay right in the hunt to the finish in a week's time. And we look forward to seeing you take the Interlagos circuit. Thank you once again.
Cheers, Paul.
All the best. So hearing there from Joseph Doble, the Pro-Am driver from NDA Honda Racing in the 011 car, absolutely flying tonight. And well, you hear it there from the man himself when his brother, championship winner Mikey Doble, has to ask him for how's he finding so much speed in Sector 1. You know you are looking at a rising star in the touring car racing class here, because absolutely non-stop performance today. But it's not just been about today, it's been a championship campaign that has seen him grow and evolve continuously. And will that evolution reach its pinnacle next time out in Interlagos? Could he be our Pro-Am champion for season 2? Well, some of you might be thinking that already, but of course we'll have to wait and see then. But with our first interviewee clear, we now come on to our second interviewee, and that will be Mikey Doble, the pro driver who had it all end, unfortunately, when it all started in race number 3. But still, 2 strong races over the course of tonight, and also a championship crown. Let's hear from effectively our pro champion as he gets ready to join us in the interview room. Well, as we do wait to hear from him at the moment, of course, we'll be talking to him about all 3 races and the difficulties that came with some of the territory. And as we do now bring him into the interview room, Mikey, race number 3 wasn't the way you wanted the day to end, but you started the day the way you needed to. You only needed 15 points to wrap up the Pro Championship today, and a 3rd place in race number 1 was exactly what the doctor ordered, and then a P2 in race number 2 took it even further. It must feel a little bit bittersweet tonight, but still, knowing the job is done must put a smile on your face.
Yeah, well, getting the job done is the main objective, of course, so really pleased to win another championship in the NXTGEN family of racing series, so really good there. Also, yeah, not the way I wanted to finish the evening, but no, I felt like I raced as hard as I could in races 1 and 2 with the car I had underneath me. But yeah, I mean, the league is continuing to get ever stronger week on week. The standard of the other drivers and throughout the field is getting higher, so it's making the racing ever tougher. But yeah, it was a good night all round.
Indeed, and starting off with qualifying, of course, qualifying looked very tough out there, particularly for those in the Honda Civic Type R, with that 75 kilograms of success ballast, and also a circuit where the velocity just seemed to be in a world of its own. Just take us through from your perspective the challenges of qualifying, because it looks like it took a lot of time for you to get that lap time you needed.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, and I think all the other Honda drivers would probably back me up by saying that this was the most the Honda has struggled all season so far. Yeah, there's a lot of twisty corners, tight corners, but then long acceleration zones with long straights, which if you're carrying a lot of ballast, that's where it hurts you the most. There wasn't so many fast flowing corners where the Honda comes into its own. But yeah, I mean, me and Joseph really were probably extracting about as much as you can out of that Honda with 75 kilograms, and we were still 2 or 3 tenths off some of the fast boys in the Hyundai. So yeah, I think we should be grateful that we were as close to the limit of the car as we were, and some of the usual contenders in the Honda were struggling tonight, such as Jamie and Adam. But I think that kind of shows that how far we were pushing the car tonight to try and compete with those guys in the Hyundais.
Oh, most definitely, and pushing it to a limit in the end placed you quite well in qualifying and put you in what was P3 with Martin Shirley alongside. And then going into race number 1, a smooth start from yourself, although it did look as though it got a little bit crowded in the run through turns 1 and 2. And the Honda, of course, with its great launch but not its great top end, it must have felt as though you had to sort of go defensive one way, defensive the other way, and just hope you'd done enough to hold on to the position come the run to turn 3.
Yeah, I was fighting a losing battle. I mean, 3 into 1 definitely don't work into the first corner, so I was grateful that everyone could take it sensible and we could kind of all navigate our way through there. But I think it worked out fair, and we kind of came out of turn 2 in our starting positions, and then it was pretty stalemate from there on. I mean, I was trying my best to try and keep up with Andrew Pike, who it was, and neither of us could keep up with Wayne. He was down the road, so yeah, a little bit processional the first race, but it was nice to get into a bit of a rhythm and put some consistent laps together, and obviously get the job done to win the championship and solidify it.
Oh, indeed. And also another item of note, as we've just spoken to your brother Joseph, your brother there keeping you honest behind, albeit finishing at 3.5 seconds back, but taking his maiden prime win as well. That must have been a moment where you're proud for yourself, but also for the Doble family, as your brother's made his own personal career history.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like he says, he doesn't really see himself any different to any of the other drivers in the race, so in his eyes he would have been 4th in that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's finally clicked for him on the sim racing to be much closer to the pace than he has been in the first half of the season. And yeah, I mean, I've got to start looking in my mirrors now and making sure he doesn't get any closer to me, otherwise I could be in trouble.
And speaking of getting close, well, as we went into race number 2, what was hotly anticipated to be the Pike versus Douglas run to turn number 1 very quickly became Wayne Douglas by himself with Pike's technical issues. But in return, behind, you're able to capitalise, but you had to fend off the charge from Joseph and also Martin Shirley and Daniel Holmer as well.
Yeah, I mean, I got away with Wayne at the beginning of the race, but then me trying to overdrive the car really to try and keep up with him, and it was never going to work. So I made a mistake going through the fast chicane out the back and got it hugely sideways through the right-hander onto the back straight, which cost me about 2.5 to 3 seconds, and it brought Shirley actually got past me down the back straight when that happened. So I really enjoyed my battle though with Martin. Obviously we had a bit of a coming together last week. We spoke on Discord and message and cleared everything up, and yeah, we had a couple of great battles tonight. I spent 2 or 3 laps trying to get past him and then never really shook him off. So yeah, I really enjoyed race 2, probably the most enjoyable race for me of the night.
Indeed, brilliant battling between the two of you. You found a way to overcome Shirley at the finish. And then a brief note, of course, on race number 3. We got underway, and then suddenly, on the exit of turn number 2, you're pointing the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I don't think it definitely wasn't intentional. It's just a misjudgment error, really, I think, from Wayne. Obviously, coming out of the turn 2, I had got some good traction on the inside. There's every chance that maybe his spotter hadn't quite picked up the fact that I was there, but he came across to take the natural racing line, and unfortunately we just clipped bumpers and it just sent me straight into the guardrail on the right hand side, which done catastrophic damage to the car. Front and rear wheel were both hanging off, suspension was broken. Yeah, couldn't even move the car, so it was unfortunately towing back to the pits, 3.5 minutes towing. So I decided to retire the car and go and watch the coverage and cheer on my brother to try and get his first overall win.
Oh, indeed. Unfortunate for yourself, but of course it gave you the opportunity to see how your brother got on. And coming back to yourself, of course, with the championship crown today, and really just remarking on what has been a fantastic championship campaign from round number 1 all the way back in Donington. The fact that you've been able to seal it around early has been a reflection of just how strong your pace is and how you've meshed the Honda Civic Type R together. When you look back on this championship, what moment stands out most to you, or what was your defining round, if you will?
I don't know. It's really difficult to say because the season got off to such a strong start, and I think other people have kind of caught up from there. I mean, obviously getting a hat-trick of wins. I think I've got a hat-trick of wins at Donington has to be my best round of the season, and then followed by another 2 wins in the first 2 races at Barcelona. So I actually won the first 5 races, which was great. And then things started getting a bit tougher. I had a DNF at Barcelona, which kind of brought everyone else back to me. And for a while it was me versus Will and Adam for the overall title, and then just bit by bit, I think just through kind of consistency and just keeping myself out of trouble, as has happened with me in some of the other leagues that I've won in NXTGEN, it's just kind of being there at the finish and being around at the right place and not getting frustrated and involved in too many battles. And then just once you get into the second half of the season, it just kind of some of the other people sort of fritter away their points, and I mean, my pace hasn't improved as the season's gone on. It's not got worse. Obviously, things have got tough with the ballast and the high and die is getting quicker and quicker, but it's just keeping the car consistently on the podium in most races that I've finished, and that's led to me winning the championship like I have.
Dean, it's been a fantastic story from start to finish for yourself, and really you have been at the very top, not just in terms of battling for pole position each time, but that consistency round after round, race after race. And whilst there's no championship to win now technically for yourself in round number 8 at Interlagos in a week's time, what will you be bringing to the table in our season finale?
Well, I'll be racing harder than you've ever seen me race. I'll be trying to go for 3 victories. It's not going to be it's not going to be easy at all. And Brazil is a very power hungry circuit, which the Honda doesn't have much of, and is also carrying a lot of ballast, but therefore hopefully we can make up with it with a draft and some brave maneuvers on the brakes. So looking forward to it. One of my favourite international circuits, as I've said a couple of times before. I think the racing's going to be really good. I do hope that the grids can be back to where they were at the beginning of the season as well. It'd be nice if we get a 35 to 40 car grid for the season finale. Everyone loves Interlagos.
Oh, indeed, I'm with you on that. Well, Mikey, we look forward to seeing how you get on in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, yourself as always for another great season worth of coverage. Enjoyed watching all the races. To all my family that tune in, parents, grandparents from home, and also to the team, NDA Honda Racing. I think we've kind of put our mark down on this season and thrashed the other teams. So thanks to Will, Jamie, Joseph for great results and making it very enjoyable to go racing, and also to Isaac, who was contributing to one of the other NXTGEN racing teams. He's got obviously a lot of potential, and I think it'll be another one to keep an eye on going into next season. And looking forward to it already.
Well, I'm sure everyone else tuning in right now be looking forward to seeing how you get on the season finale and in a week's time. And also, we do look forward to, just as a side note, as we've been watching about Isaac Doble's racing in race number 3, your brother, of course, where he's having some fantastic racing. We're looking forward to seeing how all the Doble family get on in the season finale. But Mikey, it's been a pleasure, as always, to have you in the interview room. Congratulations once again on your championship crown, which we'll officially announce, of course, at the end of round number 8, and we'll have a lovely evening, and we'll see you in Brazil.
Thanks, Paul.
All the best. So hearing that there from Mikey Doble, the NDA Honda Racing and our overall and pro champion there for Season 2 of the NXTCC. He'll be formally reined in and crowned as the end of round number 8. But still, with NDA Honda Racing taking the Constructors' crown 2 rounds early and Mikey Doble wrapping up the Pro Championship a round early, it definitely has been a season to remember for their number 1 driver in the team in terms of points accrued. And indeed, Mikey there continuing to maintain such a high stand in his own words. Everybody else really rises to the occasion, but he has been the man with a plan to keep everybody just at bay, and enough for him to be able to make sure that championship comes his way. But as we now move on to our third interview of today, we'll be hearing very shortly from Reese Watt, the JW Motorsport Pro-Am driver who has made history today and has been patiently waiting in the interview room with regards to the fact that he's the first Pro-Am to take an overall win in the NXTCC's history. And as we get ready to hear from him very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be a night, I think, where he perhaps felt there's a bit more in the opening races, but as time went on, it all came his way. And well, as he joins me now in the interview room, Reese, you have made history firstly in NXTCC by being the first Pro-Am to take an overall win here today at Oschersleben in the third race of the day. That alone surely must make you feel absolutely proud to be the first name in the history book in that regard.
Yeah, I didn't realise that. That's amazing. Very honoured. It was a great night of racing. And definitely, I'd say a series of unexpected races. There's just a lot of things that were going on tonight that was, unexpected. But yeah, to get that first win, never thought it was on the cards. Obviously, with the standard, like it's there throughout the league. It's a surprise.
Oh, most definitely. And it's not just about that win, of course, although that's a big part. Of course, like you say, 3 very unique races, all with their own moments within them. And we saw over the evening your results continue to rise. A P10 in race 1, a P7 in race number 2, and the win in race 3. But let's dial it all the way back to qualifying. It did look as though qualifying was a bit of a struggle for yourself today in the JW Motorsport team.
Yeah, so I knew I didn't have the outright pace going into qualifying. I was there or thereabouts if I had a perfectly clean lap. But to extract everything, particularly on the straights, I knew I needed that kind of toe. So the only guys around me was, I think it was Sam Smith and Alan. So I was kind of trying to get into their toe to get a good clean run. But unfortunately, like just misjudging it, either getting on the back of Alan and having to get out of it, which unfortunately cost me a bit of time going in. I would say there was another 4 tenths in me if I had that clean run. But it just wasn't to be for me in qualifying today.
Well, from qualifying, starting 15th on the grid, race 1 saw you gain 5 places and steer clear of any drama as we made our way round for 12 laps of racing action. Of course, being in that mid-pack and the long concertina into the opening couple of corners, it must have got very dicey on that opening lap.
Yeah, I was anticipating that with before coming into the race. Haven't had much practice running around here. Did a iRacing AI race just before, so I've got a bit of a flavour of what it was like to being in amongst cars. But yeah, you could tell it was going to be dicey, and it was just trying to put the car in the right position so you were able to avoid or not get tagged or put onto the grass and pushed wide. So it doesn't always work out that way. You can try as much as you want, but sometimes you just get unlucky. But the luck was with me tonight.
Oh, indeed, and we saw in race number 1 you make ground on championship leader in the Pro-Am class, Matthew Addy, and also trying to hound down Ian Manners right at the finish. Given the fact that he had quite a difficult time last time out at Watkins Glen, it must have raised your spirits to a degree to see that your championship rivals were having very mixed fortunes from the outset as well.
To a point, there was, but I didn't think I had the outright pace as, say, Matthew. Ian's a very clean driver and a very difficult racer to overcome. Like, it's very difficult to get a pass on him because he's usually just so clean and consistent, and he puts his car in the right place. So even if you got the pace on him that night, it is tough to get around him. But yeah, I think I just got fortunate with maybe some mistakes or inconsistencies, which is unusual in Matthew's case tonight. I think he might have got held up. I can't remember what happened in race 1, but I know it was a good position to be in terms of bringing a fight back for the last race. I feel like I've been out of the championship the past couple of races. It feels like a fight for second, to be honest. But yeah, Joe up the road, he was just unreal pace tonight. absolutely surprised as well, I think. And it's good to see. You can definitely see the potential there that he's got. So it'll make an interesting last round amongst there's 4 contenders, which is still really great to see going into the final round. That there's still four pro-ams in with a chance.
Oh, most definitely. And well, speaking of 4 contenders, of course, touching briefly on race number 2, it was an overly eventful race 2, gaining a couple of places, but in the end, finding yourself stuck behind Alan McCain for a good amount of the race.
I think it was the other way around. I think Alan McCain was behind me for a good amount of the race. And I went too hot into turn 3 or 2, the second hairpin. And he put the car in the right place, brought it over, and I just couldn't come across to defend that position. So it was always going to be tough to hang it around the outside into the triple left-handers. So I think he stayed with us and he picked his moment very well. And it was a shame. I was gutted to actually make that mistake. I kept it clean all race, and it was basically coming down to that. It's definitely the Elantra, especially with the Honda with the ballast. It was always going to be with us. It was always going to be hard to shake whoever's behind you, particularly with the races of the standards that we've got in this league. So it was just a case of whoever was going to make the mistake first, or whoever was going to make the mistake with the other person had the opportunity to go by. And that's essentially what happened in race 2. But it was great racing all around. It was definitely fun. Definitely a tense affair as well.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of tension, of course, with that P7 finish, then we drew the number 7 out of the lottery bowl, which set up the 2 front rows of the grid for race number 3 being dominated by the Prime class. You take reverse grid pole, you've got Alan McCain alongside you, and then your other 2 rivals in the championship, as well as McCain, Matthew Addy and Joseph Doble behind. Well, the 4 of you are going into the final round as rivals, but that must have felt like it was the rehearsal for Interlagos.
Yeah, essentially, it's absolutely baffling to find four pro-ams on the 2 front rows. Just shows the standard of what of these guys tonight, and just to find us all there. If that was any other point in the season, you're probably on pole on your own, surrounded by pros. But yeah, it was all the pro-ams up there tonight, and kind of gave me a chance. Obviously, having the experience of Alan running behind me in the second race, I knew if I didn't make a mistake, it was possible to keep him behind. And if he does end up getting pushed back, I know the pace of Addy and Joe, Matthew Addy today, and Joe was just unbelievable. So I knew they were always going to be putting the pressure on, and the battling behind will give me a chance to eke out a bit of time. And I found it was happening in certain places. But ultimately, I was weaker in certain spots where Alan was able to bring it back in, and I think the pull of the Honda out of certain corners just was give me enough to keep ahead. So yeah, it was an interesting, very tense affair. My focus was on. I know Luke, my teammate, went out. He had a DNF, but he was in my ear giving me support and making sure I got to the finish line in one piece and in P1.
Oh, indeed, and holding off the pressure for so long. And like you say, McCain in the end finding himself gradually falling backwards a little bit towards Matthew Addy and also Joseph Doble. But it was a mistake from Matthew Addy that pulled him out of the run. And then Joseph Doble hounding you all the way to the finish line in those last couple of laps. Surely you must be counting down the clock at that point and asking yourself, when will this race end?
Most definitely. Got into the corner. I saw them coming together, but it was clean enough, and I saw he was coming through, and I thought, this is it. I mean, I was on the radio to Luke straight away, just like, how many laps we've got left, because I don't know how much longer I could keep Joe behind me. Hopefully it's not too long. And obviously he caught me in like 2 corners, I think it was, and it was just a case of, again, not making any mistakes, keeping it clean, putting the car in the right place, so it was difficult to make that maneuver. So, and yeah, it paid off. I think a couple more laps, Joe would have got his. I don't know how many pro-ams have won 3 in a row this season. I think it's 2 or 3. I think Joe would have got his.
The 4th.
he would have been the fourth. Yeah, so I think one more lap and he would have been the fourth person to do it this season.
Well, you're able to hold him off in the end and be one of only 3 drivers to pick up a triplet of wins in a round. And of course, maiden overall winner, triple winner all the way back in Catalonia, if my memory serves me correctly, and now heading into the season finale in Interlagos, well in the hunt for the Pro-Am Championship crown. How are you feeling for the season finale?
Nervous. Not as confident as I'd like to be honest. I think I should be. I just, like, Joe's pace tonight was unreal. Matthew has just come on heaps and bounds, getting more familiar with the Veloster throughout the season. And I think those guys have just got the outright pace on me going into the last season. So it's just, again, it'd have to be a case of like a series of never unexpected races, you know, where things don't go quite as you planned. I know the Honda's got a ballast within Interlagos, so there's going to be that, and it's quite a racy track. You need a lot of tow, and it was just the same for us in a similar track to, I guess, Watkins Glen, where if you don't have the tow, you've got to be losing it with the likes of the Veloster and the Elantra. So yeah, I can hope for the best, do what I can, race the best race I can, and yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Oh, indeed, we will. And good luck on your preparations. But just before we do let you go, Reese, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or say thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
I'd like to thank you for another quality broadcast as usual. NXTGEN, the organisers, Jamie, obviously putting on such a great league, and then teammate Luke, especially for the support in that final race tonight, and to my girlfriend again as usual, who's got so much patience as sim racing takes a bit of time away from her. So it's nice that she allows me to do this.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant, Reese. I'm sure your girlfriend and also Luke will appreciate the shout out. But with that, we must say thank you to you once again for joining us in the interview. Congratulations on your superb runner results today, and particularly making series history with an overall win from the Pro-Am class. And we look forward to seeing how you get on in the season finale in a week's time.
Yeah, cheers, Paul. Thank you.
All the best. So hearing that from Reese Watt, our JW Motorsport history-making driver today. P10 in race number 1 overall, P7 in race number 2, and then the win in race number 3, and bringing it all together right at the conclusion in a very tense race. As we're looking in the pictures in the background whilst interviewing Reese, it really goes to show in the end he kept his head calm, kept it down, and kept focusing on what laid ahead of him. And well, it was all about just holding on until the end of the 12th lap, and it came to him, and it puts him right back in contention for that Pro-Am Championship crown come at the conclusion. But can he bring it home? Of course. We spoke to Joseph Doble earlier, we spoke to Reese Watt, and now we're going to be speaking to the third of our Pro-Am drivers and another one of those major contenders in the Pro-Am class championship. It will be none other than Alan McCain. And as we do get ready to speak to Alan McCain very shortly for, of course, iRace Esports, what started off as a very difficult night of racing turned into something spectacular very quickly in race number 2 onwards. And, well, let's hear from him as of now. For as he joins us in the interview room, Alan, a mixed night of fortunes. We heard from Reese Watt only moments ago where each of the 3 races were really unique, and I think you would add to that given the fact it was a P14 in race number 1, a leap to P6 in race number 2, and then battling for the overall podium which you made your way onto in race number 3 with 3rd place. You couldn't have asked for a better way for the day at Germany to end, could you?
No, it was one of them ones that was at the start of the night. I thought I'll just drive around, grab points that I need to get, and take it from there. But it just things seemed to fall into place, and a bit like last week, but not just as good as last week. And it all worked out really well. I'm happy for myself. Like.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of things working out quite well, qualifying wasn't quite, I suspect, the way you wanted it to go, because to be fair, just shy of 9/10 off of the pole lap, and that's how close the field was, with the top 15 separated by only a second. But P14, I think you were looking more to be inside the top 10.
Yes, I would have been, but this track with the heat that was in the first in qualifying, I couldn't get the Lantra to work the way I would like it to work. But end up I just plodded along, and things worked out. So.
Oh, indeed. And translating that over into the race, of course, qualifying with one of your championship rivals, Reese Watt, behind you on the grid. But the two of you battling closely into the opening corners. And then from that point onwards, it seems to calm down a little bit, and it was more about just focusing on the long term of the race.
Yeah, it was amazing racing all night. Hands down to Reese. He done an excellent job of keeping behind me in the first race for the first few laps, and then I think I was involved in an incident or made a mistake or something, and then I just sort of went backwards from there. Made myself back up again to 14th or 15th, so I was happy enough I made it back to my starting position, so that was all good from there.
And recovering to your starting position, and that's where you would start for race number 2. In race 2, with the drama that happened ahead, you found yourself quickly moving up through the field, and P6 come the finish, or what translated in class 2, if we remember correctly right now, what was a 3rd place finish in class and back on the podium. It must have been nice to feel yourself all the way back up there in the standings.
It certainly was. Race 2 was one of the best races I think I've had this evening. Everything just seemed to click into place, and it just kept pushing at Reese, pushing and kept the pressure on, and eventually he made the mistake that allowed me to put it up the inside and get the drive out of the corner. So that was all. It worked out the way I wanted it.
And in making it work out, of course, we saw in qualifying, you mentioned earlier about the challenges of the Elantra and the hot track temperature, but in the race it did cool down as the day went on, but still those front tyres on the Elantra, very difficult to manage with this track surface.
Oh, certainly they are indeed. I don't know what it is, but it was just one of them things.
Then being able to manage it and bringing home the result in race 2, we then did the reverse grid draw for race number 3. We pulled out the number 7, and that meant that you'd be starting on what would be the front row in P2 alongside Reese Watt. It must have made you scratch your head a little bit, because you've actually been quite the beneficiary of a number of reverse grid draws, but also to see the top 4 made up of the 4 main contenders of the Pro-Am Championship.
It was truly a shock. I thought I couldn't be as lucky as I was last week, but I ended up I was, and I was really happy that I had made it to the front row of the grid. My starts were usually pretty good, so I had give Reese a good run for his money to turn 1. I made it around turn 1 and then run a little wide in turn 2 and give Reese back the lead. So from there I just tried to hang in to stay with him at the back of him, and with the pressure of Matthew Yari behind me, which worked out quite well. I think I overheated the tyres myself, and then that allowed, at the time, was Joe, which amazing driving, amazing speed tonight. I don't know where he has pulled this speed from, but it's one of them things that he has probably put a lot more time in than what I have, and but he's getting real good now. So we'll see what the next round brings.
Oh, indeed. And in the end, settling for 3rd come the finish, but still a very strong result. And going into the season finale, if my mental maths is correct, I think it will mean that you are 3rd place, albeit not by much of a 2nd place, going into the season finale. 4 of you can win it. Everybody's got the option on the table here. But from your perspective, how has your championship campaign been so far, and what is Interlagos to you in terms of, is it a circuit you enjoy, or is it one of those ones whereby you might be gritting your teeth?
To be truthful, at the start of the season, I didn't think I would be in this position. I never really drove DTR cars beforehand, but through the team and practice sessions and just doing lots of TCR driving, it has improved me a great amount. I wouldn't say loads, but a great amount. There's still room for more improvement. for Interlagos, it's one of the tracks I really, really like. But then again, I have never driven a TCR around it, but I'm hoping for good things.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how you get on there in a week's time. We wish you all the best luck in the preparation work that goes on behind the scenes for yourself and iRace Esports. But just before we do let you go, Alan, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, a big shout out to yourself for putting on another superb broadcast. Jamie, our NXTGEN, for running the league, and all the great drivers we have at the minute. It's wonderful to be a part of this. And also iRace Esports teammates for getting 1-2 in pros.
Oh, most definitely. And, well, a great result from iRace Esports in race number 3. The 3 of you in the end occupying 3rd through to 5th overall. One of your strongest results of the season as a team. And it's great to hear the ethic down in the squad. And also, we're very glad to hear how much you're enjoying the racing from round to round over the course of the season. But with that, Alan, we really appreciate you joining us once again in the interview. Congratulations on your results today. And we look forward to seeing how you get on at Interlagos in the season finale next week.
Thank you very much.
All the best. So hearing there from iRace Esports' Alan McCain, the Pro-Am driver in the 212 Elantra, who we can hear that I think exhausted after what has been one of the most intense rounds of racing up and down the field, but particularly at the very top of the Pro-Am class. And as you can see in the pictures right now on screen, ladies and gentlemen, I think these pictures really summarise how close the racing has been in Season 2 of the NXTCC. You have got 4 drivers in the Pro-Am class batting at the very front in the most unexpected circumstances, not just for a class win, but also overall win. But these 4 will all go into the season finale next week, all with a chance, and a reasonable chance, not remote chances, a reasonable chance of any one of them bringing home the championship crown. Much like the conclusion of the 2022 BTCC season calendar, we have got an equivalent situation, albeit with one more driver, 4 rather than 3, and who out of Reese Watt, Alan McCain, Joseph Doble and Matthew Addy will bring it on home? Well, Alan McCain, of course, one of the drivers who really has risen to the challenge over the course of the season and has made that Elantra work hard for his endeavours. And now he's got one more endeavour to go through, which is 3 races in Brazil. And can he find the final step that takes him to the very top? We'll have to wait and find out. But with that concludes our post-round interviews for today. And just to remind you that you heard from what was the combination, firstly, of Joseph Doble in the Pro-Am class, the NDA Honda racing driver, picked up his 2 maiden wins today in races 1 and 2, and also made it a triple but just missed out. Then we also heard from Mikey Doble, the number 88 pro driver, NDA Honda Racing, champion overall and in the pro class today, albeit with 2 great races to start off with, a 3rd in race 1, a 2nd in race 2, but not the way he wanted it to end in race number 3 with an early retirement. We then heard from Reese Watt in the 32 Prime JW Motorsport car, and we'll bring home a P10 in race 1 to move to P7 in race 2, and then make history as our first Prime to take an overall win in race number 3. And then you've just heard from the 212 Elantra driver of Alan McCain for iRace Esports in the Prime class. 14th, 6th and 3rd were his finishes, and a great set of results with it, and indeed very humble in talking about his performances and looking forward to what lies in wait in the season finale. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and well, we can see that you've all been enjoying it in the respective chats, where it's been Viper UK in the Twitch chat or Phil McDougall in the YouTube chat, talking about enjoying the racing from start to finish. And if you have enjoyed it and you want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, why not check out our official website? That's nextgenracing.co.uk, and our website, which you'll see on screen briefly here, is the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, professionally organised sim racing events, championships, and the wider community as well. And if you do go to our website today, you can see the current leagues and events below on our website, albeit we're not going to be scrolling on down. That's on yourselves to do so, and we also do have our socials in the top right there of the website if you want to jump to our Facebook, Discord, YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter. But speaking of our Facebook, well, if you don't want to go to our website, you can, of course, go to what is our Facebook group, www.facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. We can find out all the latest news and information regarding upcoming series and ongoing series and broadcasts. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our drivers to pack up their bags and make their way back across the Atlantic Ocean, albeit they'll be going to Brazil for the season finale, round number 8 is in wait for Tuesday, the 24th of January 2023. It is at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, or known more informally as Interlagos, and who will be crowned our Pro-Am champion for Season 2. That's the last championship we need to decide, what with Mikey Doble wrapping up the Pro Championship today, NDA Honda Racing taking the Teams Championship as a round number 6, and a Honda as a manufacturer winning the Manufacturers Championship. It will all come down to the Prams, but you can imagine our pros as well will all want to end their season on a high, and who will be walking away with the glory. We'll find out then, but until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.